Clem didn't get it. On New Year's Eve, a day that was supposed to be festive, how could Peyton be so bold as to just admit to everything? But since she didn't get it, she figured she might as well sit back and watch the show. She watched as Diane Miller took Peyton by the arm, leading her to the living room sofa and peppering her with questions. Honey, what is going on here? I'm working with Leo now, in his business. He's helping me get by. Oh, Peyton, that's not a fair way to put it, Clem interjected, sliding into a nearby armchair. As long as you're with the Miller family, you'll never have to worry about money. I don't think you're in this for a meal ticket. Clem found Peyton's answer laughable. Any sane person knew that being connected to the Millers meant you'd never go hungry. But to her astonishment, Diane's response was completely unexpected. You made the right decision, honey. The farther you stay away from the Miller family machine, the better. No one knew better than Diane what it cost to live a life of luxury within a powerful family. She had warned her son countless times not to get greedy. She admired Peyton's decision, but not the circumstances. Her cousin's fiancé running off with her other cousin. It just sounded wrong no matter how you spun it. There were plenty of men and women in the world. Why did it have to be these two? You're not from around here, are you, dear? Where's your family? I'm from up north. My mother passed away a long time ago. Then, should I have your Uncle Frank give your father a call? Maybe have him come down and sort out this engagement. Diane wasn't assuming the worst of Peyton. From the moment she'd walked in the door, the girl had made an excellent impression. That first meeting had earned her a lot of points. So Diane figured there had to be more to the story. Maybe with Ethan in prison, the engagement was just left hanging with no one to look out for this young woman. Maybe she felt she couldn't turn to an outsider and had to find someone else within the family to rely on. You're so young, honey. You have your whole future ahead of you. My father, he doesn't get involved in my life, Peyton said, her voice trembling as she leaned closer to Diane. I grew up in the middle of nowhere, out in the sticks. After my mom died, my dad, he wasn't really around for me. Oh, you poor child, Diane said, the simple sentence igniting a flare of maternal instinct. Why? Because it resonated. Peyton's life had been filled with hardship, a dilapidated house, no electricity in her room, no money for school. But she didn't mention any of that. She chose the one thing she knew another mother would understand. The most effective way to stir emotion is to find common ground. Diane might not be able to relate to a shack in the woods, but the struggle of raising a child practically on her own, that she understood in her bones. Your father wasn't very responsible. He's from a small town, you know, old-fashioned ideas. He didn't even want me to go to college. Peyton was careful not to mention the abuse or the drinking. Just irresponsibility. To Diane, this sounded like a young woman who, despite her suffering, refused to blame her parents, even trying to understand them. Where do you find a kid like that? But you can't get anywhere without an education these days. Honey, you have to tell me, how did you manage all these years? The mood was set. Peyton didn't play any more games. She simply told her story, a straightforward account of her childhood. We didn't have proper lights in the house. My dad wanted me to marry young. The story was long, taking a full half-hour to tell. By the end, Diane's eyes were red. She pulled Peyton into a hug, wiping away her own tears. Don't you cry, honey. If you ever have nowhere to go, you come to my house. You don't ever have to go back to that one. Thank you, ma'am, Peyton whispered, resting in Diane's embrace. But really, my life hasn't been that hard. Silly girl. Of course it has. Because I met Leo, even before I met Ethan. That damn kid. I bet he caused you nothing but trouble. He fixed the lights for me. He even threw a wedding for me. Back home. Ma'am, in that moment, I knew I would follow him to the ends of the earth. Diane sighed, a hint of a smile breaking through. I guess that damn kid has a heart after all. Clem listened to Diane call her son a damn kid, but her eyes were filled with unmistakable pride. Suddenly, Clem realized she'd made a terrible mistake. She had brought this up with malicious intent, so she'd completely forgotten to offer Leo an out. You don't go to a mother and tell her that her son is shacking up with his cousin's fiancée. That's a classic scandal report. And what mother doesn't side with her own son? Who doesn't want to hear good things about their child? Ma'am, it really wasn't Leo's fault. It was all Leo's fault, Diane said fiercely. That damn kid held a wedding with a girl in her hometown. So why couldn't he just marry her properly? Ma'am, you can't blame him for that. You know how deep the water is with the Miller family. I wanted to help him, so I used my status as Ethan's fiancé to get inside. Honey, you've been through so much. Diane patted Peyton's cheek, her eyes drifting downward for a split second, a flicker of an ancient maternal assessment. She looked like she had good hips. This is the one. Well, since you and Leo are in love, and you don't need your parents' approval to get married, seeing as it's New Year's, maybe we can settle this right now. Ma'am, I couldn't. I know you understand, but what would other people think? Clem couldn't help but retort. You shouldn't have to sacrifice your own happiness. If you move somewhere else, who would even know who you are? Peyton didn't answer her. Instead, she looked at Diane with heartbreakingly vulnerable eyes. Diane responded with a long, weary sigh. Life isn't a fairy tale, Clem. It's bills and groceries. A woman all alone in the world. It's not as easy as you think. Clem would never understand. Peyton had already warned her, in her own way, not to bring this up. Kids from backgrounds like ours have to grow up fast. Diane came from that world, too. She understood better than anyone that when survival is on the line, everything else is a minor detail. Propriety, reputation, none of it matters when you're just trying to stay afloat. All the complicated, dramatic reasons in the world couldn't stand up to Peyton's simple, devastating question. Ma'am, with my background, with my history, is there any better path for me than building a quiet life with Leo? At first, Diane said nothing. As Clem watched in confusion, she stood up, wiped her eyes, and then turned back. Honey, if your father has any demands, you don't have to just refuse him outright. You tell me what you need. If we have to, your Uncle Frank and I'll go up there ourselves. It'll give us a chance to pay our respects to your mother. Peyton sat frozen on the sofa for a long moment before the world came back into focus. She looked up at Clem and offered a gentle, knowing smile. Such malice. I don't believe for a second you don't have any malice toward me. If I had any malice toward you, you'd be on your way out the door right now. Mrs. Miller doesn't seem that fierce. A mother will do anything for her child. You wouldn't understand, Peyton said, shaking her head. If I told her right now that you came here today just to tear us all down, do you really think you'd still be welcome here? She wouldn't kick me out over that. The way she looked at you a minute ago, the thought definitely crossed her mind. Peyton knew this was hard to explain to someone like Clem. Diane could clearly see that Clem was trying to stir up trouble. Why else bring something like that up on New Year's Eve? Clem was obsessed with propriety. She would never understand how hard it is for people from nothing to hold onto the happiness they have. Leo's two defining traits, his sense of responsibility, born from his conflict with his father, and his appreciation for the happiness in front of him, inherited from his mother, were completely lost on her. Clem took a deep breath. This kind of messy family drama was way outside her area of expertise. The only thing to do was admit defeat. Peyton.I. Calling me by my first name now? That's a start. I was out of line earlier. I wouldn't say that. In a way, you helped me clear a major hurdle. Even if I hadn't, you were already prepared, weren't you? Clem knew she had underestimated her opponents. The fact that Peyton had shown up at Leo's house so early meant she was ready for anything. Clem had just been too impulsive. Peyton, I really am sorry. It's fine. Now go wash an apple for me. Wash an apple for you. Or don't. Whatever. No, I'll do it. Clem, who had arrived in Riverbend full of ambition, ready to crush these women, was now, just a few days later, washing apples for one of them. She trudged to the kitchen. Ma'am, I'll wash one for you too, Clem said, trying to be helpful. She washed two, handing one to Diane. No, thank you, dear. Diane waved it away. Peyton walked in. Ma'am, I can't finish a whole one. It'll be a waste to throw it out. How about we split it? All right then, cut in half. Holding the apple, Clem was silently stunned by Peyton's linguistic jujitsu. Gritting her teeth, she walked out of the kitchen. She knew she had lost this round. What a formidable opponent. Clem, don't just stand there, Peyton called out, leaning against the doorframe and taking a bite of her apple half. Tidy up the coffee table. Put out some snacks, fruits, nuts. Me? Clem pointed at herself. She would never do something like that. It didn't matter if she was a guest or not. She wasn't a maid. And this woman was clearly testing her boundaries. Seeing Clem shake her head, Peyton walked over with a smile and whispered in her ear. Ms. Clem, those Bravo-style drama games don't work here. This isn't your family's estate. This is a home. And a home is about contribution and affection. And putting out snacks is contribution. Believe it or not, Peyton said, turning away with an air of mystery. Clem stared at her back, her expression shifting. Her rational mind told her not to fall for it. But Peyton's performance had been so authentic. I'll trust her, just this once. And so, the proud young woman from D.C., Ms. Clem, began bustling around the living room like a diligent little ant. Oh my, Clem, you're working so hard. It's nothing, ma'am. I'm happy to help. When she saw her work being praised, a flicker of genuine pleasure sparked within her. Watching Clem's expression from a distance, Peyton smiled. She didn't have the title of the main wife, but she was stuck doing the work. From now on, anyone who stepped foot in this house was going to get a lesson in domestic labor. They all needed to be reformed into homemakers. Otherwise, what if Leo got it in his head to get a big house for them to all live in for a few days? If they were all pampered princesses who didn't lift a finger, who would end up doing all the work? Her. You had a plan for the long term to live comfortably. A new calculation started running through Clem's mind. If she wasn't suited for these domestic squabbles, she had to play to her strengths. She needed to learn. She had to admit Peyton's strategy was good. Look how easily she'd been managed. When the next person arrived, she would use Peyton's tactics on them. Subdue the newcomer first, then turn her attention back to the most difficult one, Peyton. Just then, there was a knock at the door. Clem smoothed her clothes and marched to the door, ready to put the newcomer in her place. This time, she would be the one in control. If she couldn't handle Peyton, she could definitely handle someone else. Filled with this resolve, Clem yanked the door open and saw a frail figure standing outside. Hello, is this Leo Miller's home? A sickly one? Hostile territory successfully scanned. The slender figure was leaning against the doorframe, winded from the simple exertion of climbing the stairs. She looked like a gust of wind could knock her over, her skin a delicate, almost translucent white. To Clem, she looked like an easy target. The woman's gentle smile seemed warm and approachable. Clem smiled back. She was smiling because she had finally met a pushover. Hearing the door, Diane immediately poked her head out of the kitchen. She looked warmly at the elegant, gentle-mannered young woman at the door and liked her instantly. She looked educated, like a girl from a good family, and her smile was so warm. Hello, Mrs. Miller, Evelyn Shaw said shyly, holding out a gift. It was a gold necklace. No frills, no fancy design, just pure solid gold. Clem's first reaction was a flicker of disdain. In her world, something like that was hardly a gift. A 20-gram chain, what was that worth? It couldn't possibly be more expensive than the supplements she'd brought. Oh my goodness, honey, you shouldn't have. This is too much. Evelyn didn't humbly say it was nothing, nor did she agree that it was expensive. She just smiled. It's just a small token of my appreciation, ma'am. I hope I'm not intruding. Not all. Come in, please, have a seat. Assuming they were now on the same side, Clem sidled up to Peyton and whispered, Is Evelyn Shaw not doing well financially? She can't compare to you, obviously, but she's not short on money for a gift, Peyton said with a soft sigh. This is why people who play mind games are so insidious, she thought. You could see it even in the gift. Expensive supplements were something wealthy people cared about. To Diane, they were just pricey things. But gold. Gold was different for an ordinary family. Worn around the neck, it wasn't just an accessory. It was an asset. It could be sold if you needed cash in a hurry. For Diane, eating expensive supplements might feel wasteful, like a luxury she didn't deserve. But gold was practical. It was still money when you needed it to be. But Peyton didn't elaborate. Clem was at a huge disadvantage due to a lack of information. She didn't know Evelyn well enough. Even if she had done extensive research before coming to Riverbend, she wouldn't have found much about Evelyn's daily life. Peyton, who had lived in Riverbend for years, could barely dig anything up. What chance did an outsider like Clem have? The woman practically had no daily life to investigate. Peyton, I know she's a psychologist, but what is she like as a person? What you see is what you get. Perhaps feeling a pang of guilt, Peyton turned and walked into the kitchen, gesturing for Diane to join her and quietly shutting the door behind them. She just hoped Evelyn knew where to draw the line and wouldn't completely destroy Clem on New Year's Eve. Clem mulled over Peyton's words. What you see is what you get. She looked up at Evelyn. It was a gentle face, the kind of older sister next door who would smile indulgently at your antics. She seemed like she would be easy to get along with. Hi, I'm Clem. I don't like clementines. What? Just kidding. I love them. Evelyn laughed, her eyes lingering for a fraction of a second on the shift in Clem's expression before slowly walking over. I'm not feeling well. Do you mind if I sit? Please. And do you mind if I take my coat off? Go ahead. Are you taking yours off? I'm not hot, Clem said with a smile, gesturing to her own bundled-up coat. So you're looking down on me. What? No. Clem's eyes widened, full of bewilderment. Was this woman insane? Kidding again. Just a little psychological test. Professional habit. Running tests on people without their permission isn't a very good habit. My apologies, but since the test has been conducted, wouldn't you like to hear the results? Evelyn prompted with a smile. I don't think that's necessary. It's New Year's. We've already done it. Fine then. People in this house seemed unable to resist those two phrases. Clem nodded in agreement, gesturing for Evelyn to proceed. She expected Evelyn to spout some vague, esoteric concepts, that she had emotional issues, a tendency toward confrontation. She'd had psych profiles done before. You have a low libido. Excuse me. Clem was floored. How'd you get to that? Wait, how does this have anything to do with sex? Do you want to know why you have a low libido? I don't. Why? Despite her reluctance, she had to know. The conclusion was just too absurd. If someone tells you you're sick, you could just laugh it off. But if someone tells you you have AIDS, no matter how much you disbelieve it, you're going to ask for details. Has anyone ever told you that your conversational style is inherently combative? I've heard that before, yes. And you're not taking your coat off because you're resistant to unfamiliar environments, correct? I suppose so. Clem had to admit that sounded plausible. But what did it have to do with her sex drive? Human sexuality is instinctual. A woman's admiration for a strong partner is also instinctual. Men, in a sexual context, tend to prefer a submissive partner. A combative nature is, by definition, a challenge to male dominance. Clem nodded. That made a certain kind of sense. But in the next second, she was lost again. Your resistance to unfamiliar environments will cause Leo to develop a low libido. What? How is this suddenly about Leo? Because a low libido, whether it's being treated or exacerbated, is directly related to one's partner. Since you're here on New Year's Eve, you're either Leo's partner or a candidate. But, no buts. Leo has a very high threshold. He's seen too many women, too many. Variations. Ordinary sexual encounters probably do very little for him. That's not. No, that's not. You are inherently resistant to being dominated, and you're uncomfortable in new environments. So, let's create a scenario. Imagine you're on an empty public bus late at night. Leo is suddenly overcome with desire and wants to engage in a purely physical contest with you. How would you react? I'd say no, obviously. Who does that on a bus? Then I'm sorry, but you're out. Evelyn smiled, picking up an empty water glass and swirling it gently. Clem instinctively took the glass, turned, and headed for the water cooler to fill it, her mind echoing with the words, I'm sorry, but you're out. She had completely forgotten what she was trying to do in the first place. Could you wash an apple for me while you're up? Okay. Clem stared blankly at an apple on the counter and nodded numbly. Dr. Shaw, do I really have a low libido? There are just some early signs. Nothing to worry about. Oh, that's a relief. But if you want to be with Leo, your condition will only get worse. Can you explain the principle behind that? The principle is if you can't accept new and different things, you can't stimulate him. And when a partner's interest in you wanes, your combative tendencies will become more frequent. It's a vicious cycle. Is that really how it works? Can you accept new things? No. Can you refrain from fighting back when you're being dominated? No. Well, there you have it. Clem was dazed. She was pretty sure this wasn't what she had been trying to accomplish. Before Evelyn walked through the door, what was her goal again? It didn't matter now. Dr. Shaw, I want to be a normal person. We're both normal people. We're just a little strange in certain areas. Right. We're both normal. In the kitchen, Peyton was still worried. If you asked her whether she was more concerned for the strong, wealthy, and healthy Clem or the frail, parentless, and sickly Evelyn, she would have a very clear answer. Peyton, are you sure it's okay to leave those two out there? Diane was worried, too. She knew that getting a group of women together could be trouble. The last thing they needed was an argument. Maybe we should go check on them. That new girl, Evelyn, looks so fragile. Ma'am, let me go alone. I'm not sure you could handle the scene. Peyton sighed heavily, cracked the door open, and slipped out. She had braced herself. After all, she knew what Evelyn was capable of. Well, you two look like you're getting along. From Peyton's perspective, the scene was bizarrely harmonious. Evelyn was looking at her phone, and Clem was leaning over her shoulder, also looking at the screen. It was like a holiday gathering where two kids were forced to share a single phone to play a game. Peyton walked over quietly, not wanting to disturb them. She was just going to grab a glass of water from the coffee table. Her gaze swept over Evelyn's phone screen for just a second. But in that 1 second, her eyes locked on, and she couldn't look away. Evelyn, what are you showing her? Don't be so dramatic. It's just some educational material. Is this your idea of educational material? Peyton shot a glance toward the kitchen, making sure the door was still closed, then quickly squeezed between the two women. This is a family home. You can't look at this kind of thing here. Sex is a natural part of life. What's wrong with looking? I saw a collar. Peyton's hissed roar seemed to jolt Clem from her trance. She looked around frantically. Who am I? Where am I? What am I doing? Seeing this, Evelyn rolled her eyes and sighed. You're no fun. Dr. Shaw, what were you just telling me? I was giving you a diagnosis. You definitely slipped in some of your own weird stuff. Think whatever you want, Evelyn said, glancing at her. But tell me, was I right or not? Well, actually, you were pretty spot on. Spot on about what? Peyton quickly pushed Clem away and leaned down to whisper urgently in Evelyn's ear. Tone it down. If Diane hears you, no one can save you. Who is this Clem, anyway? She's here from D.C. for a potential arranged marriage. So she knocked Willow out of the running? Nothing's set in stone with her. She'll probably be gone after the holidays. Just try to behave. There's no need to go all out. I can't, Evelyn said, a brilliant smile playing on her lips. This one can't leave. She's very useful. Useful for what? When there's no external enemy, the group turns on itself, Evelyn said cheerfully. See, the moment she arrived, you and I suddenly look like best friends. Don't try to get chummy with me, Peyton muttered, glancing over her shoulder. Just watch yourself. Diane is in the next room. I know. Stop whispering with me. You'll make Ms. Clem anxious. Evelyn pushed Peyton back toward the kitchen. Before she left, Peyton couldn't resist adding one last piece of advice. Clem, people who mess with minds for a living usually have some issues of their own. Be careful. I know. Clem looked at Evelyn as if she were a cornered animal facing a predator. She finally remembered her original plan. She was going to use Peyton's methods against Evelyn. What had Peyton done again? Play the victim, cry about her tragic past to win Diane's sympathy. Yes, that was it. Dr. Shaw, maybe we should go talk to Mrs. Miller? It's not right for us to just chat by ourselves. Of course. Clem thought this was a brilliant move. In front of an elder, Evelyn surely wouldn't be throwing around words like low libido. She marched into the kitchen, ready to make some small talk. With 4 people inside, the room suddenly felt incredibly cramped. We don't need this many people in here. You girls go rest in the living room, Diane said. Too many cooks spoil the broth. It's okay, ma'am. I just wanted to experience what a crowded holiday feels like. My parents are rarely home. This was Clem's play for sympathy, but it was also the truth. Her parents were important people, always busy. It was normal for them not to be around. When I was little, I often didn't even see them for the holidays. Oh, you poor thing. All alone as a child. Clem was on the right track, using Peyton's playbook. Diane had a soft spot for children who lack parental attention. Seeing the shift in Diane's eyes, Clem knew she'd made the right move. I barely saw them growing up. One year, my parents came home for the holidays, and I almost didn't recognize them. I know what you mean. There was a time when Leo hadn't seen his father in a while. When they finally met again, they were like strangers. The festive atmosphere always brought up these emotions. The lively house made Diane remember all the lonely New Year's Eve she and her son had spent alone. Well, it's good to have everyone together. You should come visit more often, dear. I will, ma'am. Clem crouched beside her, glowing. Now, it was time to drop the bomb. She had already played the sympathy card and seized the advantage. She was in an invincible position. Peyton's life was genuinely hard. She couldn't compete with that. But surely no one else could have it worse than Peyton. Dr. Shaw, why aren't you at home with your family for the holiday? Dr. Shaw, you're a grown woman. Still so rebellious, Clem said, her tone playfully teasing. I really don't have a family. Evelyn was breathing heavily in the corner. She couldn't maintain a squat for long and had to kneel on the floor. Strands of hair fell across her face. She lifted her pale face and said softly, My parents passed away more than 20 years ago. Clem's smile froze. P.S. Love, Jay. One more chapter coming soon. Dr. Shaw, you. Clem's expression was like a wax figure's, her mouth hanging open as she stammered incoherently. It was Diane who quickly picked up the conversation. Evelyn, honey, who raised you? My aunt took me in for a while, but she couldn't afford to keep me, so she sent me to a children's home. A home? Which one? The Riverbend Hope. Wait a minute. Diane looked as if she'd just remembered something. She leaned closer to Evelyn, studying her face. After a moment, she murmured, I'm sorry, I almost don't recognize you, but Leo used to have a little friend from a children's home who came to our house. If that little friend was from the home and was also 4 years older than Leo, then that could only be me. Oh, honey, how'd you been all these years? Diane stood up and helped Evelyn to the sofa. Looking at that pale face, her eyes filled with an unstoppable wave of sympathy. Clem saw the familiar gesture, the familiar look in Diane's eyes, and instantly realized her mistake. Damn it, I set someone else up for a win again. I remember you weren't very healthy as a child. You couldn't even go to school. I went to school later. I even studied abroad. Oh, that's wonderful. I still remember when you were adopted. Little Leo came home and just cried himself to sleep in his bed. That was over a decade ago. Yes, it was. Diane held Evelyn's hand, her gaze lost in memory. You were just this big. Leo was always wiping his runny nose on his sleeve. Back then, I thought about just bringing you into our home, but I just didn't have the money. I couldn't afford to send you both to school. It's okay, ma'am. We're a family now. That's wonderful. So, a family. Diane's words trailed off as a realization dawned. She looked at Evelyn, then at Peyton. She wanted to say something, but the words wouldn't come. Being a mother was hard, especially the mother of a man with a complicated love life. Evelyn, I understand that you two have deep feelings for each other. But in the end, love is about building a life together. A life with 3 people might seem fine at first, but it will only cause problems for you girls down the road. Diane truly did not want to get involved in this mess. But as a mother, there were some things she had to say. Life was about paying bills and grocery shopping. It was hard enough for 2 people to make it work. Couples got married head over heels in love and divorced in a storm of fury. How could 3 people possibly manage? It was a perfectly logical concern and an unsolvable problem. Any promises made by young people were worthless in the eyes of their elders. But Dr. Shaw always had her own strategy. Mom. Yes, huh? Ma'am, I don't have a mother. From now on, this is my home. Even if Leo and I don't stay together, you'll still be my mom. Well, the sudden adoption left Diane momentarily speechless, but her eyes betrayed her. That's... Mom, you don't want me? Of course I do. Getting a beautiful daughter for free. But I have to say, Mom, can I stay for dinner? Of course you can, but I still need to tell you. Mom, I'd love some sweet and sour ribs. I'll make them for you. But I have to say, you young people make decisions in the heat of the moment, and life isn't a heat of the moment thing. Mom, you might fall in love in the heat of the moment, but do you think someone would choose a new mother that way? Evelyn said, wrapping her arms around Diane's. Mom, if you don't accept me, then I'll be all alone again next year. If I get sick, if something happens, no one would even know. Don't say that. Hush, child, talking like that on New Year's. Diane patted Evelyn's shoulder. From now on, if you're not feeling well, you tell me. I'll take care of you. Thank you, Mom. Clem watched this scene dumbfounded. She felt something in her brain quietly shatter. You can do that? Seriously? You can just adopt a mother on the spot. Clem's eyes darted to Peyton, trying to form an alliance to condemn Evelyn's outrageous move. But she was too late. Mom, I'll go prep the ribs. Okay, Peyton. Without a moment's hesitation, Peyton had chimed in, her mom crisp and clean. It was as if she had been waiting for the perfect moment. A proper change of address like this was supposed to happen at a wedding ceremony. But Peyton was destined not to have a wedding. So what could she do? Just changing the name would be awkward without a formal occasion. So she had prepared, waiting for someone else to make the first move. The moment they did, she seamlessly joined in. The atmosphere was already set. What was one more? This time, Clem was truly stunned. As a woman from a prominent family, she could never bring herself to do such a thing without a proper ceremony. She knew, with chilling certainty, that she was in deep trouble. Are all the enemies to come as powerful as these two? A look of utter defeat washed over Clem's face. There was one thing Clem would never realize. Evelyn and Peyton had been waiting for someone like her to show up. They might never have had a normal way to present themselves to Diane. The simple act of meeting the parents was an almost insurmountable challenge for them. But when an opportunity presented itself, they each had to use their own unique skills. You're a good person, Clem. When Clem saw Evelyn's smiling face, her own expression turned sour. She had come here with 2 goals: win Diane's approval and put the other women in their place. In the end, it seemed like the exact opposite had happened. They had won Diane's approval and, in the process, put her in her place. This can't be right. Clem felt her strategy was completely wrong, but she had no idea what the right one was. Where did you learn to do that? Evelyn appeared at Clem's side like a ghost, her voice a soft whisper. Get away from me. I can help you. You're a devil. Did I hurt you just now? Evelyn prompted with a gentle smile. On the contrary, you were the one filled with hostility toward me. Don't give me that insincere act. We're supposed to be enemies. Who says? Evelyn's smile widened. Are you okay with a threesome? And what? You mean an affair? That's hardly uncommon. I mean 3 people. Together. Clem's brain scrambled to process the information. When she saw the confirmation in Evelyn's unwavering expression, she looked up, her face a mask of disbelief. Sometimes, ignorance truly was bliss. Dr. Shaw, it's not that I haven't heard of such things, but I don't understand how someone can be so blatant about it. Evelyn's behavior was constantly recalibrating her sense of what was acceptable. And yet, it didn't feel as shocking as it should have. The conversation had flowed from low libido to kinky experimentation to a polyamorous relationship. It felt natural, like this was the only logical destination. A slow, insidious erosion of boundaries. Terrifying. Evelyn smiled. Do you still think I'm your enemy? No. And what is my goal? To get me to accept a threesome. Exactly. Evelyn patted her on the head. My goal is different from yours. For me, the more, the merrier. But I can't accept that. That's fine. You're trying to fit in with us, and I'm trying to assimilate you. It's your choice whether you want to be assimilated, but I'm still willing to help you fit in. You're serious? Just listen. Evelyn guided Clem to the sofa and spoke in a serious tone. When dealing with his mother, you can't use the same strategy we did. Why not? Do you want an official title? Of course. Then you need to play to your strengths. Show her the advantages of a formal partner. A light bulb went on in Clem's head. Of course. She was healthy, cheerful, and positive. Why was she competing with them on who had the most tragic backstory? A person with a normal upbringing like her had to have her own advantages. His mother's attitude toward us is pity. That's not a card you can play. So what do I play? Envy, Evelyn said with a grin. You need to make her feel that you're sunny and optimistic, that your life is happy. Make her believe her son will be happy if he's with you. Evelyn even provided a professional explanation. Deep down, his mother feels she owes Leo. She blames herself for not giving him a better life because he had it rough. But then, a partner appears who is positive and happy, completely different from us tragic figures. Don't you think she would want her son to be with someone like that? Clem listened. It made perfect sense. When parents chose a partner for their child, the eternal standard was always, with you, my son will have a better life. The two tragic figures were pitiable, yes, but they were better because of Leo, not the other way around. If she showed her positive side, thank you, Dr. Shaw, you're a really good person, and I won't hide it from you. This is one area where you all can't compete with me. Clem figured that with her wealthy family and happy life, she had to have an edge over a bunch of sob stories. This time, I absolutely will not be competing on misery. No one's asking you to. Evelyn murmured under her breath. What was that? Nothing. Your thinking is sound. Dr. Shaw, can you give me a heads up? Who else is coming? Clem no longer trusted any of the research she had done. The reports hadn't mentioned anything about Peyton being married to Leo, had they? It was all fake news. The rest all have happy families. You gotta be kidding me. Clem didn't believe a word of it. She even tried to think about it rationally. What kind of person could accept a group of women revolving around one man? It had to be someone broken. The two she'd met so far were dangerously manipulative. She had to be on her guard, assume the worst, and never make the same mistake again. With this thought in mind, when she heard the next knock at the door, Clem walked over slowly, plotting her strategy. With this one, she couldn't believe a word. She had to stay defensive. The best plan was to drag her straight into the kitchen for a showdown in front of Diane. Clem was learning. She slowly pulled the door open and saw a girl with smiling eyes, wrapped in a scarf. Hey, beautiful. You're so pretty. You don't have to compliment me. I know what you're really thinking, Clem said coldly, turning to walk back inside. This one was definitely just as dark on the inside. Hey, I don't even know your name yet. Clem, the Clementine Beauty. Hey. The girl giggled, then pointed to herself. Are we doing a fruit cosplay for New Year's? If so, I'll be the apple, and my best friend can be the grapefruit. What are you talking about? Clem was ready for battle. She was going to explain why she was the most suitable partner for Leo and advise this Skylar Reed to start calling her big sister sooner rather than later. But no one was paying any attention to her. Skylar flitted into the room like a chaotic butterfly, kicked off her shoes, and darted around the apartment. She zipped straight into the kitchen. Annie, Diane, I missed you so much. Is that you, Skylar? Yep. Skylar, completely at ease, gave Peyton a playful pat on the shoulder, then peered curiously at Evelyn, who instinctively shrank back, her gaze drifting away. It was a natural-born counter. Skylar then skipped over to Diane, beaming. Auntie, guess what I got you for a present? You didn't have to get me anything. Just guess. Skylar bounced on her toes. When you find out what it is, you're going to be so happy. Oh, I can never guess. I'm the present. Skylar threw her arms around Diane from behind. Diane couldn't stop laughing. Oh, you delightful girl. Do you like me, Auntie? Of course I like you. Skylar giggled and pulled a small pouch from her coat, holding it up in front of Diane. I wouldn't come empty-handed. No, I don't want it. Auntie, just open it and see. If you don't accept the gift I put my heart into, I'll be very sad. Don't be sad, dear. I'll just take a look. Wait. Skylar giggled, waving the box in the air. You have to enter the password to open it. Diane was a simple woman who lived a simple life. She'd never encountered such playful, quirky games. Faced with this charming girl, she couldn't help but smile. Playing your young people's games with me? Look how old I am. You're forever young, Andy. All right, from your lips to God's ears. So what's the password? It's your social security number. Diane was confused, not understanding at all. Clem was just as baffled. Why all the games? And why would she need a social security number? Only Peyton and Evelyn exchanged a look. They said nothing, just quietly took a step back and slipped out of the kitchen. Clem saw them leave and tried to follow, but Evelyn stopped her, gesturing back toward the kitchen. If you don't make a move now, you're finished. What? It's just a little gift. Question: what kind of gift requires a social security number? I don't know. This Skylar girl hasn't even spoken to me. Clem, you still don't get it, do you? Why we've been engaging with you? Peyton sighed. She didn't want to say it, but Evelyn's words came back to her. When there's no external enemy, the group turns on itself. So Peyton decided Clem needed to stick around. What is the relationship between the three of us? Frenemies. It's symbiotic. The three of us can coexist. It's just a matter of who has the upper hand, right? So what about her? She and you cannot coexist. Between the two of you, only one can survive. Clem suddenly understood. She had experienced Skylar's dismissive behavior before. From Isabella Vance. Isabella had completely ignored her, too. Only the people who could coexist with her were even bothering to communicate. The others didn't even see her as a person. So you two are my allies. What are you thinking, you silly girl? Peyton patted her head pityingly. Clem might be smart, but in this twisted battlefield of love, no one came out unscathed. Why were there no normal people around Leo? It wasn't that they didn't exist. It was that a normal person wouldn't survive the first episode. Look at Clem, the high and mighty lady from D.C., so full of ambition when she arrived. After just a few days of this, what had she become? If Willow hadn't chosen that bizarre dark side strategy and had instead tried to live a normal life, she probably would have been eliminated long ago. The good news: this twisted battlefield didn't harm normal people. The bad news: if you weren't normal, you were only going to get weirder. I really hate the word twisted, Evelyn offered. You have the least right to hate that word. Peyton shot back with a glare, then patted Clem's shoulder. Your real test has arrived. Right now, you need to go in there and prove that you are a better girlfriend for Leo than Skylar is. Me? Yes. If you can beat her, then no one in this world can stop you from marrying Leo. Is she that formidable? Do you know why I've never even tried to claim the top spot? Peyton said, shaking her head with a hint of bitterness. Because before Skylar showed up, we all had an equal chance. But after she appeared, none of us stood a chance. Don't joke with me. Andy, what is it really? Andy, have you ever wanted to travel? I'm an old woman. What kind of traveling would I do? Andy, there are flowers that look like stars and shells that glitter in the sun. It would be a shame not to see them. If I leave, who will look after the house? There are no cats or dogs here. Who do you need to take care of? You young people go have fun. As for me, Diane hesitated. It's okay if you don't want to go, Annie. We can just look for now. Skylar was prepared. She pulled out her phone and started scrolling through her photo album. This is the Sala de Uyuni in Bolivia, the world's largest salt flat. Look how beautiful it is. The ground is like a mirror. Oh my, that really is beautiful. Diane was captivated. And these are the glowworm caves in New Zealand. Look, it's like a fairy tale. Clem watched in silence. She finally understood what the social security number was for. Plane tickets. This was completely contrary to her own plans. Leo couldn't leave. Skylar, hello. Hi, Clementine, Skylar chirped. My name is Clem. Sorry, Clemmy Clem. My name is Clem. Sorry, Clemmy Clem. I don't think traveling the world is a good idea for Leo right now. Oh. Skylar gave a polite, dismissive oh and went back to scrolling through her phone. Clem took a deep breath. I said, I don't think traveling the world is a good idea for Leo. And you're right. Skylar nodded agreeably. A fire ignited in Clem's chest. Then why are you still showing her pictures? Skylar looked up, her expression innocent. Huh? What does what you said have to do with me looking at my photos? Didn't you just say I was right? I often think my mom is right too, Skylar said with a grin, her eyes curving into crescent moons. But I don't listen to her. He's in his 20s. This is the time to build a career. Don't you think your ideas are a bit childish? I'm only 20. If I'm not childish now, am I supposed to wait until I'm 40? When I was 20, someone suggested I go traveling too. But I felt it was a form of escapism. That's because you were afraid. What do I have to be afraid of? You were afraid that if you left, everything in your life would disappear. You were worried your peers would surpass you and achieve more. Isn't that a normal thing to worry about? You worry about everything except whether you'll ever get to live for yourself. Skylar finally turned her full attention to Clem. She realized that this woman, who had popped up out of nowhere, was an obstacle to her travel plans. I'm sorry, who are you? Leo's potential fiancé. Oh, never mind then. The fighting spirit that had just flared in Skylar immediately died down. She went back to her light, carefree expression and continued flipping through photos. What's wrong with being his fiancée? Clem asked, completely baffled, because being Leo's fiancée is a dead end. Hearing this, Clem glanced at Diane. She knew Diane wanted to keep her distance from the Miller family, so she hadn't mentioned them at all. Fine, let's talk practicalities. A man Leo's age should be focused on his career, dating, and eventually getting married and having children. Who says? It's the natural progression of life. I'm asking you, where is that written down? If it is, who wrote it? No one wrote it down, but if you don't do those things, you face the consequences. And if Leo doesn't do those things, what are his consequences? His consequences? Clem hesitated. She didn't know what the consequences were, but she had to say something. Diane was watching. This was a test. Diane was the examiner. As his mother, she wouldn't force her son's hand, but she would observe the women around him from a mother's perspective. Evelyn had been right about one thing. A mother might tolerate some unconventional relationships out of pity, but when it came to choosing an official partner, Diane would want her son to be happy. I think that in a few years, Leo will regret this decision. He'll regret not cherishing this precious time. Clem was trying her best to pass the test, sneaking glances at Diane, who seemed to be nodding in agreement. People always have regrets. If he stays, won't he regret not traveling? Skylar didn't look at Diane. She just kept talking. The law only tells you what you're not allowed to do. It doesn't tell you what you must do. Leo's life has never followed the so-called rules. He didn't study hard. He was a bad kid. He got into fights at school. He was a bad student. He worked as a host in a lounge. He wasn't a good person. He has all these women around him. He's not a good man. His family gave him everything, and he was ungrateful. He didn't live by the rules. But can you honestly say Leo is a bad person? But eventually, he has to return to a conventional life. Why? Skylar looked at Clem, her expression flat. Because of your own selfish desires. It's not just me. There are many people who need him, like the two women outside. Do they not need money to live? Will unexpected things not happen in the future? Doesn't he need to be capable? Why does he have to satisfy everyone else's needs? Skylar asked, genuinely perplexed. I really want to know, one day when he's old and sick and can no longer meet anyone's needs, is everyone just going to abandon him? I didn't mean that, but that's what Leo thinks. That's what he has always thought. Skylar's next words seemed directed not just at Clem, but at Diane and maybe at the two women eavesdropping outside the door. I don't know who Leo is in your eyes, but in my eyes, he's a bit of an idiot. He's always felt that if he stops moving, everything will fall apart, so he never stops. Perhaps from speaking so loudly, Skylar was a little out of breath. She unwrapped her scarf, revealing a flushed, slender neck. I don't know if any of you truly support him leaving, but I hope Leo can finally let go of the burden he carries and not fall back into that sick state of mind. If it's really like he thinks, that just because he has a new idea, you'll all be unhappy and leave, then please just leave now. Clem lowered her head in silence. She finally understood why the other two had quietly slipped out. This wasn't what she thought it was. She thought Skylar had come to put her in her place. What a joke. Skylar had come to take them all on. P.S. I love my big sister. Diane stood to the side, listening quietly. When a son truly grows up, his mother becomes a distant figure in his world. The fledgling will eventually leave the nest and fly into the sky. She had long been prepared for her son to live his own life. But this was a rare opportunity to hear what the people closest to him really thought. It would give her a completely different picture of him, one untainted by a mother's filter. And with Leo's tendency to only report good news, there was so much she didn't know. Skylar, what did you mean when you said he was sick? There's someone here who can give a more professional answer, Skylar replied quietly. Clem looked up, bewildered. She had tried to play this game in so many different ways, only to realize that everyone else was playing a different game with different victory conditions. How'd they do it? Clem couldn't figure it out. It wasn't that she lacked experience with relationships. On the contrary, she considered herself quite experienced. But she had never played a game like this. Evelyn, who had clearly been eavesdropping, sighed and pushed the door open. Leo did have a psychological episode, she said softly. Severe emotional instability, frequent bouts of depression, and sensory overload in his daily life. The amnesia was an extension of this underlying condition. In a way, he was already sick, and the car accident just pushed the illness into an uncontrollable state. And now, Diane asked, her voice tight with worry. He was much better after the amnesia because so many things were distracting him. In a way, we have Ethan to thank for that. But he's not doing well now, Skylar countered immediately. As his memories return, the old symptoms are coming back. They're minor symptoms. Drinking the fish's bathwater isn't going to kill him. But what if he fully regains his memory? I acknowledge your hypothesis is valid, but to abandon the search for his memories because of it seems irresponsible. Evelyn's expression was serious. Now, she and Skylar were truly facing off. On the battlefield of Leo's memory, they had been the two opposing generals from the very beginning, which brought to mind the original hospital trio. Evelyn had always been the proponent of gentle guidance, using her plans to steer Leo's emotions and help him recover his past. Skylar had been the staunch rejectionist, willing to give up her own claim on Leo and travel the world just to keep those memories buried. As for Isabella, the self-proclaimed pragmatist who was always mocking others for being lovesick fools, the only thought in her head at the time had been, finally, we can start over. I won't say who the real lovesick fool was. Let's use a simple analogy, Evelyn continued. If Leo is a patient who has lost a leg, then as a doctor, my job is to figure out how to reattach it, not to teach a cripple how to adapt to his new life. But Skylar had her own position. Dr. Shaw, have you ever actually seen him when he's having an episode? I'm a doctor. Of course I have. But he knew you were his big sister from the orphanage a long time ago. How do you know that? I know everything. Skylar stared at her calmly, arms crossed. Leo would never tell Summer Lynn that he was struggling. Do you really think he would show his darkest parts to the big sister from the orphanage who he sees as a fragile figure? I'll reserve judgment on that. Neither of us has seen it. I have. I'll say it again. I know everything. From the moment Skylar entered the room, the atmosphere had shifted. After her initial group attack, she had simply picked the strongest opponent in the room and gone after her. She knew no one truly, unconditionally supported Leo leaving. They all subconsciously saw it as a vacation, a break. He would come back eventually. But now, Skylar was telling them that wasn't the plan at all. As long as he stays here, surrounded by all of you, his memory will return sooner or later. That's why I never even considered him coming back. I gave you all this time to let him experience a new life. I even sent Willow away. And in the end, we're right back where we started. Fine. I'll handle it. Her first attack had been a broadside against the entire group, challenging the very nature of their relationships with him. He is trapped here by your need for him. If he can no longer meet your needs and wants a new life, will you support him or oppose him? Will you stay or will you leave? Skylar took a deep breath and sat down on the sofa. Finally, she delivered the killing blow. I know everyone here has their own complicated bond with him. I won't judge what those bonds are. But if it's a relationship of supply and demand, then it's the relationship between a mule and a farmer. When a mule can no longer provide value, its fate is sealed. But if it's love, then tell me, do you support him or oppose him? Skylar huddled on the sofa, rubbing her hands together, her head resting on Diane's shoulder, but her eyes scanned everyone in the room. The first attack was to set the stage. But this second, more brutal assault demanded an answer. I support him. The words left Peyton's mouth the instant Skylar finished speaking. There was no hesitation, because she had always agreed. She knew her brief phone call with Skylar might not have clearly conveyed her stance, which was why Skylar was now demanding an answer to her face. But still, Peyton wanted to cry foul. I was always prepared for Leo to do whatever he wanted, and she meant it. The moment she accepted the role of his mistress, she knew that the dream of one true love forever was gone. Even if Leo woke up tomorrow and decided he wanted to be a mercenary, Peyton would only say, let's work hard tonight and try to make a baby first. She would never stand in his way. That was the professional code of a mistress. Why do wealthy men like mistresses? Because they do what they're told. You think rich men are fools who pay to make their lives more difficult? They have a wife at home to argue with. They don't need to pay for another fight. The core service a mistress provides isn't physical. It's emotional validation. It's simple. With me, you can be yourself because I will support whatever you do. Peyton had warned herself time and again not to get a big head just because she was playing the part of the main wife. She couldn't actually start acting like she had a right to make demands. Otherwise, she would never survive this game. So she answered cleanly and decisively, eager to pass the hot potato. Go fight with your Dr. Shaw. Leave me out of it. Several pairs of eyes turned to Evelyn, who remained expressionless. She threw up her hands. Don't look at me like that. I've already said I support it. On what condition? I'm going with you. No. The point is to escape from all of you. Hold on. We don't need to be adversaries just yet. Because whether he goes or not isn't up to us, Evelyn said quietly, leaning back in her chair. The core of our discussion is whether I can join the team. But there's still someone here who doesn't want him to go at all. In that instant, every gaze in the room fell upon Clem. Are you talking about me? The battlefield was shifting too quickly. There were no permanent allies, no permanent enemies. Only a permanently getting her ass kicked Clem. Do I support it or not? She mumbled to herself. Logically, I should support it. But if I do, does that mean I have to go home? Clem had accidentally stumbled upon the twisted core of the entire emotional mess. A normal person would just turn around and leave. They all should. But each of them had a reason to stay. And that's where the distortion began. I don't support it, Clem said, mustering her courage and looking up. Evelyn and Peyton exchanged a smile. Peyton was smiling because the lightning rod had appeared. Evelyn was smiling because she now had more time to play her game. Thank you, Clem. It's New Year's. Let's not fight, Diane said, finally stepping in. She had heard enough from each of the girls to get the gist of their positions. It was time to play peacemaker. And Diane, I think this is... Clem started to say. She felt she needed to explain her position, why she didn't support the trip, but she was cut off. Peyton, I want to learn how to make dumpling wrappers, Skylar chirped, hopping up from the sofa and burrowing into Peyton's side. Peyton sighed and wrapped an arm around her. We're not at that step yet. Go wash the cucumbers. She dragged the little limpet attached to her toward the kitchen, then pointed at Evelyn. You don't just stand there. Go steam the crab. Yes, ma'am, Commander Peyton. Instantly, the festive, cheerful New Year's atmosphere returned. And why wouldn't it be cheerful? Peyton had cleared up the biggest issue with her identity and was now on a mom basis with Diane. Skylar had secured Diane's support and forced the other two to declare their positions, getting the answer she wanted for now. Evelyn's goals were always hard to read, but from the look on her face, she had also achieved her objective. So what was my objective? Clem wondered, scratching her head. She looked up and met Diane's eyes. Clem, I can't get involved in you young people's affairs, but I don't want my son's life partner to be a choice he's forced into. Mrs. Miller, I think you understand what I mean. It's a holiday, so I won't say too much. Since you're here, stay for dinner. Clem stood there lost. She looked at the busy figures in the kitchen. She had fought so many battles, so why was she the first one to be eliminated? A bitter feeling of injustice rose in her chest. Why? The moment Leo Miller walked through the door, he saw Clem looking like she'd lost the will to live. She was standing listlessly by the window, tracing circles on a flower pot. Leo smiled. This was exactly the scene he'd been hoping for. Sorry, Clem. River Bend isn't your playground. Wouldn't it be better to just go home and be the comfortable heiress you were born to be? Don't tell me they tortured you into a catatonic state already, he said. Clem lifted her head, her eyes pale and vacant. There was a dazed confusion in her gaze, like someone trying to cross the Pacific Ocean on a bicycle. There was no hope. Leo, is it actually possible for a human being to live with them? She asked. I don't believe you can handle them. What do you mean, handle? Do they normally listen to you? Sure, if I'm nice about it. I don't believe you. Believe what you want, Leo said, shrugging off his jacket and slumping onto the sofa. He was tired. He'd spent the morning at the Miller estate for a family ritual, something he'd originally planned to skip. But a morbid curiosity had gotten the better of him. He wanted to see what kind of people could produce the Miller clan, that nest of vipers masquerading as a loving family. It wasn't until he got there that he realized the grand ancestor worship was just a trip to the patriarch's grave. What about the old man's parents? My great-grandparents? Don't we pay respects to them? He had asked his uncle. Your grandfather was thrown out on his own by your great-grandfather when he was just a teenager. There was no love lost between them. So your grandfather said there was no need. The empire he built had nothing to do with that old bastard. Listening to that insane justification, Leo found that it made a twisted kind of sense. A loving family, indeed. The dysfunction, it turned out, was a legacy. Now, having rushed back home, he was still buzzing with questions. So what happened here this morning? It's too much to explain in a few words, Clem mumbled. Who was here? Peyton, Dr. Shaw, and Skylar. Okay, then tell me this. Who was the most hostile toward you? It felt like no one was hostile, but at the same time, maybe all of them were. Who said something that crossed a line? Everything felt like it crossed a line, but no one actually said anything directly to me. Stop. Leo held up a hand. He could see this was going nowhere. Clem was too shell-shocked to give a coherent report. Peeling an orange, he popped a segment into his mouth and walked toward the kitchen, calling out as he went. Private Skylar Reed, front and center. Sir. The kitchen door flew open and Skylar bounced out, grinning. She had her sleeves rolled to her elbows, her hands still wet. She snapped to attention. Your orders, Commander. Debrief me. What happened this morning? Reporting, sir. We discussed a potential vacation plan, which received unanimous support from all parties present, with the sole exception of Clem. That's it, sir. Leo leaned against the doorframe, his gaze shifting to find Evelyn. Their eyes met in a silent exchange. She responded with an epic eye roll before turning to his mother. Mom, look at him. He just got back. doesn't even say hello, and he's already giving me that look like I've committed some terrible crime. Leo, you stop bullying her, Diane called out. Okay, Leo said without missing a beat. He gave Evelyn a thumbs up. Impressive. You managed to win over my mom without me even being here. Looks like I'm in for a peaceful New Year's after all. Finally, Leo looked at Peyton. She didn't even turn around, but sensing his attention, she untied her apron, told Skylar to stop splashing water everywhere, and walked out of the kitchen. She followed Leo into the bedroom. Your mom knows about Ethan and me, she said. Oh, wait, what? I told her the whole story beginning to end. She understands. That's not what I'm confused about. I'm confused about why you're calling her mom now, too. It was bound to happen sooner or later, Peyton said, pushing him playfully. She rubbed her shoulders, a wave of exhaustion crossing her face. This morning was a lot. Cooking, managing, a room full of women. My shoulders are killing me. Here, I'll get them. I'll get them. Leo quickly moved toward her. Oh, we couldn't possibly trouble our busy man. No, I've got it. He knelt on the bed behind her and began kneading her shoulders. I called your dad this morning, he said as he worked. The old man's doing well. He's saving that bottle of Jack I brought him for tonight. You didn't send him money, did you? No. Leo, tell me the truth. How much did you send? Just $500. It's New Year's. Let him have some fun. Peyton's expression was a mix of exasperation and affection. She looked out the window, a quiet smile on her face. This had been the year her dreams came true. From Clem's perspective, it was probably incomprehensible. What was so happy about a group of women spending a holiday together under one roof? But for Peyton, this was it. This was the moment she'd longed for. Some people's dreams were to claw their way to the top. Hers was just to not live in constant fear. And now, she had nothing to fear. If you're going to rub my shoulders, then rub my shoulders. Where do you think your hands are going? Peyton glanced back at him, rolling her eyes. But it was only a glance. Some rebukes aren't rebukes at all. They're invitations. Peyton was about to lift the hem of her shirt, but she felt Leo's hands freeze. Did you just say something to me? He asked. I asked where your hands were going, she repeated, a little confused. Was her tone wrong? There was no way Leo Miller could fail to recognize an invitation. Here, you can touch, she said, trying to guide his hand. No, that's not it. Leo stopped completely, frozen by the window. He suddenly looked around the room. Are you sure you weren't just talking to me? I was, Peyton said, completely baffled now. She had been talking. Huh, I guess I must have misheard. Dr. Shaw, you're a grown woman and you still need me to escort you to the bathroom? For shame, Skylar teased from just outside the restroom door. But Evelyn wasn't listening. She glanced around furtively before leaning in, her voice low. I need to ask you something, and you have to be honest with me. Can I touch them if I am? Are you bisexual? I don't like girls. I'm just envious. Some things you're just born without. You have them, too. But yours are huge. Absolutely massive. Answer my question truthfully, and I'll let you touch. Ask away, Skylar said, practically vibrating with excitement, her eyes fixed on Evelyn's chest. Tell me, what was the most severe symptom Leo ever showed? The suicide attempt, obviously. Something worse than that. Evelyn pressed, her eyes locked on Skylar's. I don't know. Skylar tried to turn and leave, but Evelyn blocked her way. You do know, Evelyn whispered, her voice barely audible. Because this game of mafia never ended. Psychological problems build up over time, but a major breakdown always has a trigger. Just like a long-term mental illness was triggered by the car crash and turned into amnesia, there must have been another massive, traumatic event. It either had to do with you or with Summerlin. But I'm not asking about the event right now, because your version would be incomplete. I'm just asking you this. What was his most severe symptom? Skylar blinked twice. She knew there was no getting out of this. She leaned against the wall and whispered. He said there was someone talking inside his head. The primary symptoms of schizophrenia include hallucinations, delusions, disorganized thinking, and abnormal behavior. Some patients may exhibit aggression and suicidal tendencies. Evelyn muttered to herself, deep in thought. She came to a conclusion and let out a long sigh. Even for her, this was a difficult diagnosis to accept. It was important to clarify. Schizophrenia and dissociative identity disorder were two different things. Evelyn had never considered this possibility before, because Leo had never mentioned having hallucinations. But looking back, many of his past behaviors took on a terrifying new context. Previously, Evelyn had attributed Leo's strange actions to sensory overload, the result of his brain constantly processing too much complex information. That would explain things like his sudden irritability or his discomfort with wearing a necklace. But, drinking the water from a fish tank, Evelyn looked up at Skylar, her expression one of disbelief. He said the fish in the tank was him, Skylar explained. He said the only way to save him in the tank was to drink all the water. Did he ever explain why he couldn't just pour the water out? Why he had to drink it? Evelyn wasn't questioning the logic. She was tracing it to its source. The patient doesn't lack logic. They operate on a logic all their own. Because you have to swallow your own pain. Evelyn stood frozen against the wall, utterly still. That one sentence explained everything. It was the reason Leo had gotten sick in the first place. A boundless sea of suffering. Leo looked at the feast spread across the table and the strangely quiet atmosphere. "Why is no one talking?" he asked. "No talking at the table," Diane said primly. "Can I at least look at my phone while I eat?" "You will eat your dinner properly." Diane tapped his head with her chopsticks, then looked around the table herself. Had the girls argued themselves into exhaustion? Why was everyone so quiet? Especially Skylar and Evelyn. The two of them together were an odd combination, the two live wires of his life. They seemed like natural adversaries, yet they both shared the same secrets about him. Skylar still maintained her position. Amnesia was the best thing that could have happened to Leo. Evelyn, however, was starting to reconsider, her professional certainty wavering. Peyton knew nothing of this and was simply peeling boiled shrimp for Leo. Only the brave Clem dared to ask the question on everyone's mind. "Leo, are you still planning to travel the world?" "No," he said with a firm nod. He'd thought about it a lot. His leaving would come at a cost to too many people. Travel was supposed to be relaxing. If it came with a heavy price, then what was the point? "I'm going to take a position at the family company." He'd already discussed it with his uncle, Frank, that morning. "Uncle Frank, after the new year, I'm thinking of taking a position at the company. Find me some quiet desk job so I can get a feel for the place." Leo was no business prodigy. He'd have to start from scratch, but he could learn slowly. He was a rich kid, after all. "Son, I'm still alive," Frank had said. "You don't have to worry about all that. Go have fun if you want to have fun." Leo had just given him an eye roll. "I was never counting on you. Hey, I'm not the man I used to be. It has nothing to do with how much money or status you have." Leo had clapped his uncle on the shoulder, turning to leave. "I never planned on pinning my hopes on anyone else." His father, Rick, had been eavesdropping nearby. As Frank started to go after Leo, Rick put a hand on his arm. "Don't bother. Your son is the kind of man who'd burn every bridge he's ever crossed. I'll give you a bridge to burn right now. How about that?" Frank shot back. "I'm not insulting him. On the contrary, I'm explaining him." Rick staggered back, dodging a punch aimed at his head. A kid who grows up with no safety net is bound to be cold-hearted. It's only natural. That's not for you to say. "You're right. An uncle calling his nephew ruthless isn't a compliment," Rick said, glancing back toward the lakeside cabin. "But there's no one better suited to sit in that chair than him." Back in the dining room, Diane was the first to question Leo's announcement. "Son, just a few days ago you were asking if I'd support you traveling. I was just asking for your opinion. Well, even if you're not traveling, you don't have to go back to the family, do you? Finishing college is a perfectly good plan." "Mom, some things aren't up to me." Leo's expression wasn't one of resignation or defeat. In fact, he seemed to think this was the natural course of the world. Life wasn't some idealized fantasy. Wasn't everyone living a life they hadn't quite chosen, just trying their best to get by? Construction workers, sanitation crews, they all worked harder than him, from dawn till dusk. He didn't like the storm, but he wasn't afraid of it. Returning to the family meant power and influence. Aside from the fact that he hated that kind of life, it was almost all upside. He himself didn't care much. His material desires were low. He could live with or without money. But sitting at this very table were two women who planned to spend their lives with him. Of course, he wanted them to have a good life. And if he became a father, he'd want his children to have a good life, too. A life of material comfort had no downsides, except that it was expensive. You get what you pay for, an eternal truth. "Leo, are you really not coming with me?" Clem asked again. "No, because even if I did, I wouldn't be free." He hadn't even left yet, and he was already worrying about Peyton and Evelyn. If he were actually gone, that worry would be unbearable. "Leo, why are you always living your life a stage ahead?" Skylar asked, a piece of fried fish dangling from her lips. "You're 20, but you act like you're 30. How so?" 20-year-olds are full of themselves. 30-year-olds have no self left." Leo chuckled. "I don't disagree with that." He ate the last shrimp and stood up. "I have to go out for a bit. Skylar, Clem, I'll drop you two home on my way. You two stay for New Year's Eve dinner," he said to Peyton and Evelyn. Skylar had to get back for her own family's dinner. It was a testament to her loyalty that she'd even come over for lunch. As for Clem, "It doesn't matter where I am," she said, her fighting spirit suddenly reignited. Leo wasn't leaving. This was a huge advantage for her. Leo, have you had any urges to drink from a fish tank lately? Haven't seen one lately. Leo, are you really not coming with me? Skylar asked, wringing her hands in the passenger seat. I'm not. My mind's made up. Leo glanced over at her. What's with you? You're acting all shifty. There's something I want to discuss with you. Leo glanced at Clem in the back seat before leaning closer to Skylar. I'm going to buy some fireworks. You want to come? Yes, but are fireworks even legal in Riverbend? We'll just go to the outskirts and set them off. Is everyone going? Just me. I asked before we left. They're not interested. Leo buckled his seatbelt and started the car. Well, I'm interested, Skylar said, her excitement bubbling over. She waved her hands in the air. Let's buy a ton of them. Bang. Boom. Pow. Then just as quickly her face fell. But I can't go with you. My grandparents are all at home for New Year's. I can't be gone that long. Then just come with me to buy them. Okay. With the fireworks issue settled, Leo pressed her. You said you had something to tell me. I want to talk about your psychological problems. Yeah, I figured as much. Leo, as your memory returns, have you started to notice that you're having issues again? Nope. Leo, you're lying to yourself. Does lying to myself pay well? He shrugged nonchalantly and tapped her on the head. What kind of fireworks do you want? Leo, you can't be like this. What if you try to die again? You'll die before I do. You're going to start hearing voices in your head soon. What, like a wise old master living in my brain? You definitely think I'm joking, but this is a very serious matter. You have to be prudent. You mean I have to take it seriously? Whatever, it's the same thing. On the way there, Leo listened to Skylar's incessant nagging with a steady stream of ahas and yeps. After a winding drive, they arrived at a roadside fireworks market. It sounded grand, but it was really just a collection of state-sanctioned stalls and little tin sheds. Even on New Year's Eve, plenty of vendors were out, hoping to make a sale. In this day and age, what holiday was more important than making money? A tall, thin man in a bomber jacket and a bubbly girl strolled side by side through the stalls. I'll buy you some sparklers if you'll just shut up for a minute, Leo said. I don't want those tiny things. I want the big ones. Skylar's attention was immediately captured. A vendor in a heavy winter hat popped out from behind a counter. Hey, little lady, we got the big stuff right here. I want the biggest you've got. Then you got to see this. The Apocalypse Now 3000. I'm the only one on this strip selling one this big. Awesome, awesome. Skylar bounced over, and Leo followed, his gaze falling on the vendor's face. He looked vaguely familiar, but Leo couldn't place him. A familiar, sharp pain flared in his mind, the same twinge he felt when he tried too hard to remember the girls. He should have been used to it by now, so there was no reason for the panicked expression that crossed his face. But this vendor was a man. What was even more terrifying was that the man clearly recognized him, too. The face under the wool beanie began to tremble, and his eyes welled up with tears. He was so emotional he could barely speak, pointing a shaky finger at his own face, his eyes turning red. Is that you, Leo? Yeah. You forgot me. The man's expression was a whirlwind of emotions. First, disbelief, then a sort of resigned acceptance of the passage of time, and finally, a flash of red-eyed accusation. If my eyes aren't filled with tears, will my cheeks still blush for you, my dear? Who the hell cued the BGM? Leo clamped a hand over Skylar's mouth. Muffled noises continued to escape. MMPH. Breaking news. A new male lead has appeared. Just be quiet for a minute. Leo struggled to control her while turning back to the man. Sir, who are you? It's better that you forgot. The past is the past. All that love and hate was just a dream anyway. Listening to that incredibly cheesy line, Leo had the urge to punch him and tell him to drop the act. But then he studied the man's face again. To be honest, as much as he didn't want to believe it, the bloodshot eyes and the genuine look of reminiscence were just too real. It was making Leo doubt himself. Dude, what exactly was our relationship? You really do swing both ways. Skylar, undaunted by the crowd of vendors and customers, hooked her arm through Leo's and proudly gave a thumbs up to the world. See? My boyfriend is amazing, right? Shut up, Leo hissed. He quietly approached the man and put a hand on his shoulder. Hey man, I was in a car accident. My head's a little messed up, so I don't remember you. You really forgot? You're not kidding. Who would joke about something like that? Well, damn. It's still good to see you. Pack it up, pack it up. We're closing. The man yelled to someone who was either a relative or an employee. He started to walk out with Leo, pulling a pack of cheap cigarettes from his pocket. He instinctively offered one to Leo, but then he saw the car keys in Leo's hand and the distant flash of a Lamborghini's headlights. He quietly put the pack away. Hey, give me the cigarette. Who offers a smoke and then takes it back? Figured you wouldn't be used to these anymore. I don't smoke now anyway. You should quit too, Leo said, but he took the cigarette and lit it anyway. Man, what's your name? Roy, the man said, clearing his throat. Still not ringing a bell. What happened between us? The biggest thing that happened between us was probably this. Roy took off his beanie, revealing a massive, jagged scar across the back of his head. Remember this? Did I do that? Propane tank explosion. You're Roy. At the restaurant, Skylar sat at the table, happily playing with a roasted grasshopper on a stick. Leo and Roy sat across from each other. Roy had done his best to find a nice place, a steakhouse that probably set him back a good $40 a person. Never thought I'd see you again, Roy said, a hint of emotion in his voice. About what happened back then. I was wrong, man. It's all in the past. I've made my peace with the propane tank thing. I figured it was God himself, looking down and deciding to smite me for my sins. It was my grandfather looking down, and he sent my dad to smite you. Roy didn't quite get it at first, but he was a man who'd been around the block. He glanced out the window at the Lamborghini, then lowered his head, choosing his next words carefully. Well, brother, looks like your hard times are finally over. Were my times that hard before? Roy nodded without hesitation, downing half his beer. A kid, barely grown, juggling school while running with every lowlife in the city. You couldn't even bring yourself to spend a few bucks on a decent meal. What else? Roy hesitated, then asked tentatively, did you ever make any friends? What kind of friends? Buddies? Brothers? Me. Skylar immediately shot her hand in the air. No, Leo said, seriously considering it. He gently lowered Skylar's arm and shook his head. See? You were always a hard person to befriend. You had nothing in common with kids your own age, and you never trusted the people on the streets enough to let them get close. And that counts as a hard life. A man's life is about two things, big and small. The big thing is money. The small thing is happiness. You had no money and no happiness. If you weren't suffering, who was? Leo nodded silently, staring out the window with a blank expression. He could hear Roy's voice, full of wistful longing. It's good that you forgot. Forgetting is a good thing. It means the suffering is over and the good times can begin. Is it good to forget? Leo and Skylar exchange a look. Everything was said without a word. 2:30 p.m. Leo dropped Skylar off at home, taking a moment to say hello to Stephen and Susan Reed. 2:45 p.m. Leo arrived at his soon-to-be father-in-law's house, carrying a case of specially ordered wine. He didn't have to show up on New Year's Eve, but the fact that he did would bring relief to the entire Shung family. It was a sign that his attitude hadn't changed despite the broken engagement. Winston Shung could sleep well tonight. Willow Shung could sleep well tonight. For 17 p.m. After half a glass of wine, Leo appeared in the empty guest room of the Cypress Lounge. The lounge's holiday break was short, so many of the staff hadn't gone home. Leo had prepared cash gifts and presents for them. 5:25 p.m. Leo had a bouquet of flowers delivered to his own home, with a smaller one for Clem. 6:07 p.m. Leo called Dr. Shaw's aunt, forcefully insisting she call her niece. In this kind of atmosphere, seeing everyone else talking to their families, Evelyn was bound to feel lonely. At the same time, he double-checked the plane tickets he'd booked. The destination was a city up north. According to Northern customs, you visit the wife's family a day or two after the main holiday. 7:00 p.m. Leo returned to the Cypress Lounge one last time to check the main gate, giving Silas an okay sign. Then he called Isabella. No answer. He sent a Happy New Year text. No response. 7:15 p.m. Leo called Summerlin's mother to wish her a Happy New Year and ask how Summer was doing. 7:30 p.m. Leo drove alone to the outskirts of the city. He took the fireworks out of his trunk, one by one, and lined them up on the side of the road. The mountain path was winding and deserted on New Year's Eve. His only companions were the swaying trees. Leo sat on a large rock, and for 20 minutes he didn't move. He knew he had a problem. No one knew it better than he did. There was a fish tank at the Cypress Lounge. He'd looked at the fish swimming inside. It wasn't like he imagined some merman version of himself, a muscular Leo gliding through the water. A fish was always just a fish, but a voice in his head would whisper to him, "See that damn fish? That's you. Drink the water, and you'll be saved." Leo would wonder, "Why can't I just pour it out?" And the voice would answer, "Are you a man or not? You swallow your own pain. But if that fish is really me, won't I die of dehydration after the water's gone? It's the only way to be saved. How is dying being saved? Death is salvation." Leo sat alone on the hillside, watching the fireworks burst and fade in the sky. Then he took a breath. He had to understand his past. That was his absolute, unshakable bottom line. He wouldn't hesitate just because he might be sick. What in life didn't come with risks. He wasn't ignoring his mental illness. But no matter how much you acknowledged it, you still had to live your life, right? You couldn't just lie in bed muttering, "I'm sick, cure me, I'm a patient." That would be truly sick. At that thought, Leo smiled. His energy returned in a rush. He stood up, slapping the dust off his pants, and pulled a tissue from his pocket to wipe his nose. He looked at the field of spent firework casings. Damn, being a grown-up was great. He could never have afforded fireworks this big as a kid. No, that wasn't right. He didn't remember if he'd ever set off fireworks this big before. What if he and Summer Lynn had set some off when they were kids? See? How could he not try to get his memory back? Forget fireworks. He didn't even know what his body count was. Humming an old, out-of-tune folk song, Leo called his Uncle Frank and asked him to send someone to clean up the mess. The whole point of coming to the mountains was that he had people to clean up after him. "Where's Mom?" "She went for a walk with Peyton." "Why didn't you go?" "I was waiting to have a drink with you." Evelyn produced a bottle of vodka from behind her back like a magician. "It's New Year's. Let's have something strong. What are we drinking?" "Moscow Mules." Evelyn took Leo by the sleeve and led him into his bedroom. She started mixing the drinks on his small student desk. "Why didn't we drink during dinner? This is our secret drink. I like the feeling of it being just for us. Are you going to talk about my illness, too?" "Right now. I'm your future wife, not your doctor." Evelyn gathered her skirt and sat on the edge of the bed, swirling the copper mug in her hand and looking up at him. "Cheers." "Cheers." Leo downed the drink in one go and lay back on the bed, feeling a wave of relaxation wash over him. "How's your memory recovery plan coming along?" "I have no idea where to start." "Bullshit." Leo wiped a drop of ginger beer from his lips and rested his head on Evelyn's lap. "You're going to play that game with me?" Evelyn handed him another drink and sighed. "Leo, schizophrenia is no small thing." Leo took the mug without thinking and drained it, grimacing at the bite of the vodka. "When I was a kid, I couldn't win a fight against a puppy. You think I can't win now that I'm grown? If only it were as simple as beating a puppy. I don't care. I'm treating it like beating a puppy." The mugs in Leo's house were large. 2 of those drinks were more than enough. Lying there, Leo's face began to flush, and the exhaustion from the long day made his eyelids heavy. Before he could say anything more, he was curled up on the warm bed, fast asleep. The pillow was especially comfortable. He slept soundly on Evelyn's lap. Evelyn looked around the small room, a place she remembered well. Her eyes traced the faint cracks on the walls. She imagined a little boy with a runny nose sitting at that low desk. In a blink of an eye, that little boy was all grown up. She stroked Leo's face, a silent decision solidifying in her heart. She wouldn't search for his memories. This was good enough. When you have something precious, you fear losing it. She was afraid of losing this, too. "Help me," Leo mumbled, his lips barely moving in the dim light. "What did you say?" Evelyn leaned down, putting her ear close to his mouth to hear his sleepy words. "Big sister, help me." Help me." Evelyn's face lowered and never came back up. Her slender shoulders trembled silently. Face pressed against face, it was an act of profound intimacy, not quite a kiss or a caress, but something that hovered on the knife's edge between affection and desire. "I will help you, Leo." "Thank you." Maybe Leo wasn't asleep, or maybe he was. It didn't matter. His eyes fluttered open in a daze. He said, "You don't have to worry about me." She said, "I don't worry about you. We live or die together." If Evelyn Shaw had a normal moral compass, she wouldn't be Evelyn Shaw. For her, the line between right and wrong was blurry. There's a reason ancient kings kept assassins. Assassins don't care about honor or morality. The king's word is law. "If the day comes when I'm truly finished," Leo whispered, "I'll call you before I do it. We'll pick a nice day and die together. No hanging this time. Too embarrassing if someone finds us. We'll just jump into the riverbend together. Maybe some fishermen will pull us up. Before we jump, we'll tie a waterproof bag to our waist with a note inside written on yellow paper," she added. "It'll say we were killed by a water spirit, and whoever finds this note must screenshot it and post it to their story, tagging 10 friends, or the water spirit will get them." "You're a twisted genius." Leo gave her a thumbs up. "Thank you for the compliment." Evelyn smiled faintly, her cheek still pressed against his. The man lying on the woman's lap, their skin touching, whispering the most beautifully depraved things. Outside, a million lights twinkled in 1,000 homes. Inside, the small room was dark. Romance isn't just roses, candles, and Chanel. New Year's Eve, the dinner was the main event. There were 6 chairs at Leo's dining table. It was a perfect fit. Although Clem was an extra, the planned guest, Summer Lynn, hadn't come. Willow only managed to arrive just before dinner. Her own family was overrun with relatives, many of whom had traveled from far away. She'd had a hard time getting away. Faced with the pleading of her younger siblings, Willow had simply said, "I'll play with you tomorrow. Big sister has to go home for New Year's first." She'd left a crowd of bewildered children standing in the vast Shung family estate, wondering where exactly home was. Willow didn't need anyone to let her in. She'd lived at Leo's for a time and still had a key. But because no one opened the door for her, the first thing she saw upon entering was Clem wiping the dining table. "Put that down." "Huh? Who told you to wipe the table? I can't even wipe the table now." Willow snatched the paper towel from her with a hostile glare. "I can't believe you actually dare to show up. You showed up to... This is my home. Why wouldn't I be here?" Willow rolled up her sleeves, ready for a fight. To her surprise, Clem surrendered. I know. Just drop it. I've only said one thing to you. Dinner's about to start. Save your energy," Clem said, genuinely confused by the sheer intensity of Willow's animosity. "You're about to become a nun? Why are you still so petty?" "Becoming a nun is my defense against people like you." Having grown up witnessing endless strategic marriages, Willow knew that Clem wasn't just Clem. She was a symbol, one of a whole class of women. If this Clem left, another would come along with a marriage proposal. As long as Leo was a miller, this trouble would never end. The best solution, then, was for Willow to occupy the position of fiancée herself. But Willow had come to understand another truth. She could hold the title of fiancée, but she couldn't hold the space next to Leo. So she had given it up. Becoming a nun would be her way of repaying his kindness. She would spend her days at the Celestial Master's sanctuary, lighting incense and cultivating her spirit. It would be a peaceful life. Once that idea took root, her perspective on Leo began to shift. It was like looking at a goddess. Once you lose the desire to possess her, you find yourself acting much more freely. You become more yourself. So when she saw Leo stumble out of his room, she walked over and handed him a book. "What's this?" "I got it from Master Hausher. You should practice it when you have time." "No, I don't have time. It's for your health. It enhances stamina." "Do I practice before or after a meal?" Leo snatched the ancient-looking text from her hands. First Silas, now Master Hausher. The patrons of his little Leo were truly his greatest benefactors. After flipping through a few pages, he studied Willow's expression. "Hey, how come you're not blushing? It's about physical fitness. What's there to blush about?" "Something's different," Leo said, shaking his head. "It's because you used to think practicing this stuff would be for your benefit, so your mind would automatically conjure up certain images. But you don't think that way anymore." Willow's hard-won new perspective almost crumbled. How did he know what she was thinking? "It's good that you figured things out," Leo said, delivering his verdict. He promptly sat down at the table, rubbing his hands together in anticipation of the meal. The food was on the table within 2 minutes. Diane sat at one end of the square table, and Leo sat at the other. The remaining 4 girls filled the sides. Peyton and Evelyn sat close together on the left, while Willow and Clem sat on the right. There was no battle for seats. Leo squinted, a small smile playing on his lips. A war zone in my presence? Impossible. Absolutely impossible. "Let's put on the New Year's Eve special for some background noise," he said, turning on the TV. He wasn't personally interested in the broadcast, but without it, the atmosphere felt incomplete. It also felt incomplete without Skylar. Leo wanted a lively family gathering, but this group wasn't capable of it. Peyton was committed to her good wife and mother routine, observing a strict no-talking at the table rule while fawning over his mom. Willow and Clem were locked in a silent Cold War. Dr. Shaw was capable of livening things up, but the topics she found interesting were not exactly suitable for his mother's high blood pressure. Leo decided to text Skylar. "Leo, have you eaten yet?" Skylar. "Just started." Leo. "You coming over tonight? We could play cards all night or something." Skylar. "I'll come over a little later." Leo. "All right." Skylar. "You miss me already?" "It's only been a little while." Leo. "Nope." Skylar. "Well, I miss you." Leo. "I don't believe you." After a series of scoldings from his mother, Leo finally put his phone away and started to eat. He was genuinely bored. Evelyn seemed to notice. Under the table, her foot gently brushed against his thigh. He immediately clamped his legs together, trapping it. Now was not the time. Her teasing held no interest for him. Why? Because while he'd been napping earlier, a certain little sneak thief had taken advantage of his drowsy state. He had woken up mid-act, groggy and completely immobilized, and could only watch as she licked her lips, satisfied, and sauntered away. "What can we do that's interesting?" Leo propped his chin on his hand and stared at the ceiling, his mind racing through possibilities. Here he was, with 4 women, all of whom he had a complicated connection with. And yet, sitting here with all four of them, the only thing he could think of was whether he should go to bed after dinner, to play some solitaire on his phone. How could he not be a Sigma male? After racking his brain for what felt like an eternity, he was broken from his thoughts by a knock at the door. Skylar? Already? If she was here, things were about to get interesting. Leo shot up from his seat and rushed to the door, ready to welcome her. He was already planning something fun, but when he opened the door, the smile vanished from his face. The bad news. It wasn't Skylar. The good news. Things were definitely about to get interesting. You didn't go back to Boston? Is that any of your business? So you're spending New Year's alone? I'm at your house, aren't I? What's with the attitude? Did you eat gunpowder for dinner? Move. Leo sighed and stepped aside. Isabella Vance strode past him, greeted Diane with a nod, and then stood frozen in the middle of the room. There was nowhere for her to sit. The chairs were all taken. She didn't demand a seat. She didn't go sit on the sofa. She just stood there, watching. Come, sit down, Isabella, Diane said, immediately standing up to offer her spot. A guest had arrived. Of course, she needed a place to sit. But the moment she stood, the other four girls stood up in unison. Now no one was sitting. You girls sit, please. Eat your dinner, Diane urged, but no one moved. Who would dare? Auntie, please, you sit, Isabella said. Diane was caught in a bind. In the end, she sat back down. Isabella was a guest, but so were the others. This was making everyone uncomfortable. As she sat, the other girls sat down as well, a synchronized movement. At a moment like this, no one would offer up their seat. Even Willow, the youngest and most timid of the group, was a product of a powerful family's complex social ecosystem. At this moment, whoever gave up their seat was finished for life. Don't underestimate the significance of this one act. If it were just two people, one would yield. No one would be so petty. But everyone was watching. This was nothing less than a tribal contest for dominance. The first to compromise would be the default target for compromise next time. If you yield now, the next time a sacrifice is needed, all eyes will instinctively turn to you. And if you refuse, then you will be in the wrong. So even Peyton, the most considerate of them all, remained perfectly still. She was kind, not stupid. This twisted little sorority of theirs was, surprisingly, harmonious. They rarely fought over major issues. It was these small, invisible competitions that would become the main event. All of this transpired in the few seconds it took for Diane to sit back down. As the tension in the room thickened, Diane spoke up. You can sit in Leo's spot. Let him stand for a while. I was never sitting down, Leo said with a sigh. He was already standing behind Isabella. That had been his plan from the start. But it was clear Isabella had no intention of taking a seat. Go on, sit. No, I'll just stand and eat. I said sit down. Leo poked her arm. No, Isabella was adamant. It's New Year's Eve. Do you really have to start a fight with me right now? I just came to eat. I didn't come to fight. The conflict between people is a strange thing. For adults, even two people who despise each other can't be at each other's throats every second. Boxers have to bow to each other before a match. But with Isabella and Leo, they were either fighting or on the road to a fight. It was a holiday. Leo didn't want to argue. He just wanted a cheerful evening. But Isabella had to walk in with that icy expression. If she had just given him an inch, even if she'd sat down and just glared at him, he would have let it go for the sake of the holiday. But she gave him nothing. Leo was baffled. Isabella wasn't a completely unreasonable person, yet she had a preternatural ability to find the perfect moment to appear with the most inappropriate attitude and behavior possible. Some people were just like that together. Come here. We need to talk, he said. No. Do you have to embarrass me in front of my mother? I want to eat. You two go talk. The chair will be here soon. Peyton suddenly spoke up, getting up to push them both toward the bedroom. She then glanced at her phone. I ordered a folding chair to be delivered. The delivery is a little slow because of the holiday. They're still delivering on New Year's? Diane asked, intrigued. They will if you pay enough, Evelyn said with a meaningful smile. She leaned closer to Peyton. Did you arrange for her to come? She whispered. Don't be ridiculous. When you went out this afternoon, did you go see Isabella? I just gave her a call, Peyton said quietly, glancing around to make sure the others were watching TV. She hadn't gone back to Boston. It was obvious she was just waiting for an invitation. Such a tsundere. Sooner or later, someone's going to have to train her properly. Let's eat. Don't talk nonsense. You're so warm-hearted. You couldn't bear to see her spend the holiday alone. Can't you just accept that I'm warm-hearted? Since when is a calculating opportunist like you warm-hearted? Evelyn pressed, ready to get to the bottom of it. I only do what Leo needs. He looks at her like she's the play. Does he look at anyone else that way? Peyton shot back, pointing out the flaw in Evelyn's tone. Stop fishing. You already know the answer. Ever since the amnesia, Almost all of Leo's emotional volatility comes from Isabella. I don't know all your psychology jargon, but I know this. The person who moves your heart is the person your heart belongs to. And as long as he loves someone, he won't die. My, such insight, Peyton, Evelyn teased, then her voice dropped to a whisper. You know Isabella can't stand us. Aren't you afraid she'll come after you later? If Leo is gone, nothing else matters, Peyton answered with stark simplicity. You have zero consideration for Isabella, do you? She's the perfect woman. There's a line of guys out there waiting to chase her. I don't know her that well. Why should I consider her feelings? You truly are a femme fatale, better than a natural-born villainess. Hearing you say that, I think we'd make a great ship. Get away from me. I'm going to peel a shrimp for my mother. We're a ship now, and you're still trying to one-up me. In the living room, everyone's eyes were supposedly fixed on the television, a charade put on for Diane's benefit. In reality, all their attention was focused on the closed bedroom door. Willow, pretending to get a glass of water, sidled up to the two schemers. Are you sure they won't actually start fighting in there? She whispered. What kind of fighting are you referring to? The kind without clothes. Evelyn murmured in her ear. I mean a real fight. I, for one, wish Leo would develop the habit of getting physical with women. Then I wouldn't have to beg him to hit me all the time, Evelyn said with a regretful sigh. Seeing her expression, Willow gave up and turned away. Dr. Shaw was hopeless. Peyton had to be more sensible. Peyton, if only. Isabella is famous for her body being more honest than her mouth. Peyton, you too. Willow's face flushed red at their outrageous comments. For two experienced women, such topics were trivial. But when it came to sex, Willow, steeped in traditional values, was still incredibly conservative. Compared to these two, she was a schoolgirl. It's New Year's Eve, and there are so many people sitting right outside, Willow said, still unable to comprehend such absurd behavior. Her words only seemed to inspire Evelyn, who licked her lips. Don't you think that makes it more exciting? What? There's no use guessing. Why don't you go scout out the situation? That would be so awkward. No, I can't. Willow, that's where you're wrong. Evelyn took her arm. Did your master ever teach you that detachment is the path to enlightenment? Not exactly, but he did say that emotions interfere with cultivation because they cause fluctuations and prevent a clear mind. Same thing. In other words, you have to be emotionless. That's what I was trying to do, but then I met Leo. Wrong. Meeting Leo is the beginning of your cultivation. Evelyn glanced at Diane, who was engrossed in the TV special, and whispered, anyone who claims to be detached without ever having experienced emotion is full of crap. How can you claim to be free of something you've never even felt? You have to experience it and remain detached throughout the process. That is true detachment. I can't do that. You can. I really can. You really can. Evelyn insisted, her expression deadly serious, like a kind teacher encouraging a failing student. She patted Willow's head. Willow, emotions are subjective. They have nothing to do with your actions. For example, if you go eavesdrop on Leo right now and you have feelings for him, then your behavior is that of a simp listening at her goddess's door. But what if you have no feelings? Then you're simply gathering data on the sounds coming from a room. Dr. Shaw, isn't that just lying to yourself? All methods of strengthening the mind are, in essence, a form of self-deception. They just use different methods. You might have a point. She wasn't wrong. Evelyn's little speech had just opened up a whole new world for Willow. She understood it was self-deception, but if it made her stronger, so what? Master Hausher told me that the key to my continued cultivation lies with Leo. He wasn't lying. Your master would have to be blind not to see it. If Leo marries you, you become a wife and have his children. If Leo doesn't marry you, you can only pursue cultivation. But Leo won't marry me. Exactly. So your path to enlightenment is right at your feet. Evelyn smiled, pointing toward the bedroom door. Her words were a devil's whisper. If you look with mortal eyes, the white-boned spirit is a beautiful, graceful maiden. But if your heart is detached, she is nothing but a painted skeleton. This is your path. Do you understand? Understand. Leo is the painted skeleton, Willow said, her expression firm. She clenched her small fists and walked toward the bedroom, oblivious to anyone's gaze. Brave Willow, unafraid of hardship, she tiptoed silently to Leo's bedroom door. The TV was blaring. She covered her left ear with one hand and pressed her right ear against the wood. Admit you were wrong. I wasn't wrong. At first, it sounded right. A typical exchange between Leo and Isabella. But on second listen, something was off. The one demanding the apology was Isabella. The one refusing was Leo. Huh, something wasn't right. Just say you were wrong, and I'll go out and eat. I wasn't wrong. Were you wrong or not? No, what could possibly make Leo so stubborn? At that moment, Willow actually found it thrilling, even satisfying. Who actually enjoys dealing with its tsundere in real life? Listening to them is torture. Willow was silently cheering for Leo's defiance. But in the next second, she heard Leo's voice from inside, quietly apologizing. I was wrong. Instantly, a bitter, acidic feeling filled Willow's heart. After all this time, this was the first time she had ever seen Leo back down. In her mind, Leo was the man who never bowed his head. But he had bowed his head for another woman. The bitterness was indescribable. If you can't understand the feeling, just switch the genders. Imagine the goddess you hold in the highest esteem, now bowing her head for another man. You see it with your own eyes. You'd feel it too. He's just a painted skeleton. Just a painted skeleton. The emotions roiled inside her. The words Dr. Shaw had just spoken flooded her mind, and sure enough, the feelings were suppressed. Why are you messing with a poor girl like that? Peyton asked, watching Willow's expression with a hint of pity. What makes you think I'm messing with her? Evelyn replied with a smile. Who in this room do you think is the most like a patient? You obviously. Evelyn shook her head. My behavior might be abnormal compared to the general public, but I have a complete and functional system for my life. My thoughts, emotions, and actions are all coherent. Are you saying Willow's isn't? It's more than just incoherent. Have you ever seen a girl from a wealthy, happy family who's never suffered any major trauma decide that if she can't have the man she loves, she'll just become a nun? That part is admittedly strange, Peyton conceded. She didn't really get Willow either. In this day and age, if it doesn't work out, you just move on to the next one. Why torture yourself over one person? So, Willow's masochistic tendencies are far more severe than you think, Evelyn concluded. That psychology is what makes her such a talented candidate for spiritual cultivation. Because she's ruthless with herself. You mean she's a masochist too? Sadism and masochism are two different things. If you hit her, she wouldn't necessarily enjoy it. But when she tortures herself internally, she definitely gets off on it. Evelyn offered her conclusion, which led to a startling thought. I just gave her a little suggestion. It might help her a bit. The last thing we need is a whole house full of mental patients. Now that would be interesting. Inside Leo's bedroom, an argument about who was wrong was indeed underway. I'm asking you, back at the hospital, if you had just explained everything clearly from the start, would any of this have happened? Isabella demanded. How many times do I have to explain this to you? I wanted a fresh start. A do-over. A do-over, my ass. Leo shot back, his face flushed. While they were always at odds, it was rare to see them both this red-faced and angry. Usually, for one reason or another, Leo was the one to back down. But today, perhaps it was the festive atmosphere being ruined by her icy demeanor that set him off. Or perhaps, in that moment, Leo simply had no reason to yield. Whatever the cause, they were having a full-blown fight. An argument is never a good thing. It shattered the fragile peace they had always tried to maintain. But paradoxically, it was the fighting that finally made them look like a real pair of exes. A sugar daddy and his boy toy, a host and his client. Those relationships could maintain an eternal, polite distance, but never a boyfriend and girlfriend. Isabella clearly had a lot to get off her chest. Why is it that so often you know exactly what to do, but you refuse to do it? What do I know? So many times, all you had to do was say one more thing, and the problem would have been solved. Why do I have to be the one to solve problems with you? In any case, you were wrong, Isabella insisted. I was not, Leo said, his neck stiff. Listening from the doorway, Willow felt the acidic bitterness in her chest grow stronger. She had never seen this side of Leo. It wasn't about whether he would admit fault. It was that if you removed their names from the conversation, it sounded like any normal young couple fighting. Questions even began to swirl in her own mind. Was the relationship between Leo and Isabella really just about money before? Did he truly never have feelings for her? Just as she was pondering this, the bedroom door flew open and the two of them stormed out. They marched to the dining table, their faces cold, and said nothing to each other. Isabella sat in Leo's chair. Leo remained standing, holding his rice bowl. They were clearly in a cold war. What's wrong with you two? Diane asked, confused. Nothing, Auntie. Nothing, Mom. Diane could tell at a glance it was just a typical lover's quarrel. Nothing serious. She had originally planned to talk to Isabella about the future, just as she had with the other two girls who had called her mom. But seeing them now, she figured Isabella was different. Better not to bring it up. In Diane's eyes, this kind of argument was trivial. Who doesn't fight with their significant other? But in the eyes of the other girls, this was a major anomaly. None of them had ever seen Leo in this state. The Leo they knew was a lady killer, a heartthrob. This angry, sulking version was entirely new. Peyton motioned for Willow to come over. What exactly happened in there? They were fighting. The whole time. What were they fighting about? Dredging up old history. Neither one would back down. Did anyone give in at the end? Leo did say he was wrong once, but it sounded more sarcastic than anything. Peyton nudged Evelyn's arm. Give us your analysis. What's the situation? This is a good thing, Evelyn said, then looked at Willow. Describe your immediate feeling after hearing their conversation. It felt like a real boyfriend and girlfriend fighting. Why do you say felt like? Because they were never officially a real boyfriend and girlfriend. Then why did it give you that feeling? Evelyn said with a knowing smile. The key to restoring his memory is right there. All right, girls, don't forget to wish your auntie a happy new year, Diane said, emerging from her bedroom with a cheerful smile, her hands behind her back. There are red envelopes for all the good children. As the only elder present, Diane had, of course, prepared cash-filled envelopes. She withdrawn a thick stack of bills just for the occasion. This was the downside of having so many daughters-in-law. The New Year's gifts were small change. The thought of wedding dowries and banquet costs made her head spin. An ordinary family couldn't handle it. Fortunately, while they looked like an ordinary family, they were not. Frank, that unreliable father, was finally stepping up. Faced with Diane's worries, he had simply waved his hand, showed up with a suitcase full of cash, and declared, "Forget giving envelopes to the daughters-in-law. If Leo brings home a stray dog on New Year's, it better have a red envelope in its collar before it leaves. Clem, dear, come wish Annie a happy new year," Diane said, starting with her. "Happy New Year, Annie. I wish you health and happiness." Such a sweet girl. Clem took the red envelope, a little surprised. She hadn't expected to get one. Feeling its thickness, it seemed to be the same as the others. Did this mean she'd been accepted? A secret joy bloomed in her chest. The beating she'd taken this morning had been worth it if it earned his mother's approval. "Happy New Year, Mom," Evelyn and Peyton said in unison, hugging Diane from either side. Awkward? Not for them. Even if Diane felt awkward, they wouldn't. "Take these, but next time you come over, no more gifts," Diane said earnestly. "We're family. Bringing gifts every time makes it feel so formal." "We know, Mom." Diane was actually quite pleased. These two girls seemed sensible. They wouldn't be too much trouble. But this Isabella. Diane sighed inwardly and sat down next to her. "Isabella, Annie has a New Year's gift for you, too." "She's ancient. Why are you giving her a cash gift?" Leo grumbled. "No matter how old she is, she's still a child in my eyes," Diane said, shooting Leo a glare. She handed the envelope to Isabella. "Happy New Year, Auntie. I came in such a hurry, I didn't bring a gift." "Nonsense. The fact that you came to celebrate with us is the best gift of all." "Annie, actually, I have something to share with everyone, too." Isabella sat at the table and opened her handbag, rummaging inside. "What, CEO Vance, are you going to give us all New Year's money, too?" "Wish me a happy New Year, and I will," she retorted. The two of them, in their state of war, would never pass up an opportunity to mock each other. "CEO Vance, Happy New Year. Now give me my money." Leo held out his hands like a waving lucky cat. "I've got something for you, all right." Isabella did indeed pull a red envelope from her bag. But it wasn't for a cash gift. "I'm getting married the day after tomorrow. If anyone is free, you're welcome to come to Boston for the ceremony. You can make a trip of it." The bright red invitation complemented the festive holiday atmosphere perfectly. But the moment the gold embossed card touched the table, the air in the room went still. Everyone's eyes darted to Leo, searching his face for any flicker of emotion. But there was nothing. No shock, no surprise. He was just leaning back in his chair, completely at ease. Then, from his own pocket, he produced an identical invitation and slapped it on the table. "You all can go as the bride's family. I was invited by the groom." Leo waved the invitation with a grin. It was, of course, from Sebastian Cole. "What makes you part of the groom's family?" Willow asked, voicing everyone's confusion. "Seb's my buddy. You know you'll have to give a gift if you go." Seb said I don't have to, and he even asked me to be his best man. As Leo delivered this line with a casual smile, Isabella snatched a bowl and looked ready to smash it over his head. But perhaps it was the holiday spirit, or the full moon outside, or the hazy memory of their past, but she just stood there, glaring at him for a few seconds. She didn't speak, let alone scream at him. Light reflects differently in blue eyes and black eyes. In black pupils, it makes them shine. In blue pupils, it looks dimmer, like a dying blue star. Without another word, she turned and walked out. She didn't say goodbye to anyone. The red invitation on the table was a glaring, painful crimson. Peyton grabbed a coat and started to go after her, but Leo stopped her. "Don't bother. She's a grown woman. She's not going to get lost. He calmly sat back down and continued eating. It was Evelyn who spoke first. Leo, you should try to repair your relationship with her. Like she said, if you had just softened your tone a little, you could have made her stay. Isabella's pride is harder than anyone's, but her heart is softer. No, I'm not making her stay. Leo, for the sake of your memory recovery and your treatment, fixing things with her will be a good thing. A good thing for me, maybe, but what about for her? Leo fell silent for a moment, then said quietly, mostly to himself, being sick is a real pain in the ass, but you can't make everyone revolve around you just because you're sick. You can't expect everyone to compromise for the sake of your recovery. There was nothing more to say about him and Isabella. It came down to 4 simple words: happy to be apart. In the past, he had always faced her with compromise. You tolerate someone to amplify their good qualities and hide their flaws. In that situation, a clean break is impossible. How can a woman leave when all she remembers are your good points? So what they needed was a fight to make them hate each other, and a ceremony to let them forgive each other. A final, definitive end to their story. The fight had just been achieved. As for the ceremony, Leo looked at the red invitation on the table and reached out to touch it. That day was finally coming. The core conflict between them was something he couldn't change, no matter what he did. Better to have a graceful, final farewell. Diane watched this scene and sighed, a complicated feeling in her heart. A mother always feels her child's pain. Son, this last envelope is for you, she said. I don't understand the world of you young people. I just hope you can be happy. Thanks, Mom. I want you to go on your trip. Mom, I know you're worried about me getting into trouble if I go back to the family, but sometimes it's better to charge head-on than to wait to get hit. I'm not worried about that. I'm worried that you won't get what you truly want. If you lose something, it means it was never yours to begin with, Leo said with a grin, his true thoughts impossible to read. There wasn't enough space at Leo's for everyone to sleep, not even on the floor. So after dinner, he drove them home one by one. Leo, you do love Isabella, don't you? Clem asked from the passenger seat, watching the city lights recede in the distance. She was staying at the Miller estate, which was far out in the suburbs, so she was the last to be dropped off. There's no point in talking about that now. I overheard them talking. Peyton said Isabella could cure your illness. My illness doesn't need to be cured by someone else. Why do you think that? This isn't post-op recovery, where you need a family's careful attention to get better. But a mental illness means you have a psychological flaw, doesn't it? Clem said quietly. She was very concerned about his condition. Now that he wasn't leaving, her chances were much better. At least, that's what she thought. She could accept Leo being lame or blind, or even impotent. But she couldn't accept him having schizophrenia. What if he had an episode, a hallucination in his sleep, and turned around and killed her? The criminally insane don't go to jail. I may have flaws, but I never expected anyone else to fix them for me. Not Skylar, not Isabella, not anyone. Why? Isn't that what a good partner is supposed to do? If your partner can mend the broken parts of you, then you are lucky. But you can't go into it from the beginning with the expectation that they need to fix you. Leo was feeling unusually expressive tonight. When people are in a bad mood, they tend to ramble. He saw Clem's confused expression and explained with a wry smile. Viewing your partner as your savior is an incredibly dangerous thing. That's why Evelyn refuses to admit we're a couple. Because no one can unconditionally accept the worst parts of you forever. So your own issues are yours to solve. Because only you can solve them. If you can't, all you'll leave in a relationship is resentment. Loneliness, lack of confidence, self-loathing, even mental illness. These are all your own burdens to carry. No one is obligated to help you. Leo drove calmly along the winding mountain road, his eyes as still as the surface of a quiet lake. In the passenger seat, Clem stared at his profile. She felt like she was finally getting a glimpse of the source of his charm. So how are you going to solve it? By treating myself like a person. A normal, insignificant person, not some goddamn patient. I don't need people to compromise for me just because I'm sick. Like what Peyton did today, inviting Isabella over. She probably thought a soft-hearted goddess like Isabella would make concessions because of my illness. But I reject that option. It's disrespectful to every sacrifice I made in the past. You made a lot of sacrifices before you lost your memory. Letting them compromise once would just be fair. Clem was confused. Isn't give and take normal between people? Even though I've forgotten what happened before, I'm pretty sure my goal back then wasn't to become some emperor with a harem. Otherwise, why would I have waited until now? Then what was it? The me back then definitely wanted them all to be happy, Leo said, pulling the car over. He got out and leaned against the hood. So, if she's not happy, why should I ask her to compromise? That's just my left brain fighting my right brain, isn't it? He watched as Clem walked toward the gates of the Miller estate. A luxury car with a beautiful woman is a classic look, but it works with a handsome man, too. At least in that moment. When Clem turned back to look at him, a firework exploded in the sky right above his head, illuminating the sharp lines of his face. She called out from a distance, "Leo, I don't know if you're just putting on an act, but I hope that when your illness gets bad, you can still stick to your principle of solving your own problems. Then you'd better not believe in me. Changing your tune already? Worried I'll laugh at you then? No, because I don't need your approval." At that, Clem suddenly smiled. She couldn't fully agree with his point of view, but that didn't mean his words didn't stir something in her. "Leo, thank you for the New Year's Eve dinner. I hope you get well soon. Don't thank me, thank my mom. Will you be buried at the Miller estate when you die?" "Probably not." "Then where will you be buried?" Clem didn't know why she suddenly asked that question. Perhaps she wanted to be there to see the despair on his face when he was on his deathbed, ravaged by his illness. "Wherever the car stops, that's where you can leave me." Hearing those words, Clem watched his retreating back, and her heart suddenly skipped a beat. A man like Leo, she thought, shouldn't get sick. New Year's Day, a time for new beginnings. "Leo, you have to come. You have to." On the other end of the line, Seb Cole was sobbing, his voice cracking. I'm coming. I already told you I would." "Dude, we've been hanging out for a while now. You know I'm a good guy, right?" "You're a good guy, Seb. Then you have to come. I've even planned out the escape route. I picked an estate on a lake, surrounded by woods. Worst case, you just disappear into the trees. I've got getaway cars and everything ready, drivers I trust." "What are you talking about?" "You have to crash the wedding, man." "Crash my ass," Leo muttered into his comforter. "Are you insane? You should be grateful I'm even showing up." "Leo, I'm begging you. Everything's ready." Leo was too tired to even argue properly. In another life, maybe he'd crashed a wedding, but that was for money because he was desperate. What kind of normal person crashes a wedding? Besides, Leo said, what would crashing it even prove? What would it change? "That's not my problem, man. You just have to show up and blow the whole thing up. Please, can we just try being normal people for once? Just go through with it and get it over with." Leo genuinely just wanted to be a normal person this time, to think about this wedding like a normal person. There was no dramatic ex-boyfriend soap opera playing out in his head. Anyone with half a brain could see that Isabella and Seb were just going through the motions. They weren't actually going to live a life together. So he was just going as a junior member of the Miller family, or as Seb's friend. Stop making things complicated, okay? If you're not embarrassed, I am. You're embarrassed? No problem. I can just use your name. I'll hire some guy who's built like you, put a mask on him, and have him crash the wedding. Get lost. Leo was speechless. He hung up the phone and lay in bed, utterly bewildered. Crashing a wedding was something only a complete moron would do. If the person wanted to marry you, would you need to crash anything? He couldn't imagine what kind of idiot would pull a stunt like that. "Master, I've found my path. This is a good thing. You truly have the spirit of a seeker." "So what is your path?" In the backyard of the Celestial Master Sanctuary, beside a dry well, Master Hausher and Willow sat facing each other. Visiting the Master on New Year's Day was a tradition Willow had kept for years. The path of detachment. What? Master Hausher's brow furrowed. He suddenly sensed this was more complicated than it seemed. "Didn't you just experience the first bloom of love?" "I did, but someone taught me the correct way to cultivate a detached heart." "Oh, this is truly a good thing. And who is this renowned teacher?" "A psychologist." "A good thing indeed. To have such profound insight, she must be a great master hiding in plain sight. The greatest sages are always found in the mundane world. Would you like to meet her, Master? This is a tremendously good thing. If she could be invited for a discourse, it would be a marvelous occasion." "Master, I brought her with me. This is an unprecedentedly good thing. Quickly, invite her in." With the Master's blessing, Willow quickly stood and ran toward the back. A moment later, she led Dr. Shaw, who had been waiting outside the gate, into the yard. "Master, this is Dr. Shaw. Dr. Shaw, this is my master, Master Hausher." They nodded at each other in greeting. By the dry well sat three figures: a pale, frail-looking girl, a man who looked every bit the part of a transcendent sage whether he was one or not, and a third woman. Master Hausher studied the fragile woman before him, his expression grave. "Dr. Shaw, your vital energy is insufficient. You have a sharp eye, Master. But I didn't come here today to solve my physical problems," Evelyn Shaw murmured, her gaze fixed on the Master, silent for a long moment. But the Master was, after all, a master. He remained perfectly serene under her stare, waiting patiently for her to finish her observation before speaking. "This is a good thing," he finally said. "It proves that you live a prosperous life. Your physical weakness has not affected you financially. Though your body is unwell, You are a person of wealth and status. Master, Evelyn cut in. Before you continue showering me with praise, I came here to have a discourse with you. A quick wedding was being quickly organized. One should never underestimate the efficiency of a powerful family. The vast estate was now an ocean of flowers. Mr. Cole, your taste is truly unique. It wasn't easy to gather so many different kinds of flowers. Thank you for your hard work. Go see the manager to settle the bill. Seb surveyed the sea of bouquets, his heart swelling with pride. Mr. Cole, you've put in so much effort. You must love your other half very much. Don't talk nonsense, Seb shot back, glancing around nervously. If Leo hears you say that, he'll skim you alive. He was trying to think if there were any other wedding details he needed to add. Young Master Cole, the impeccably dressed event planner, said, looking at Seb with confusion. There is one thing I don't understand. Are these bouquets really suitable for a wedding? To be honest, in all his years of planning weddings, this was the first time he'd seen someone order such a chaotic mix of flowers. And it was certainly the first time he'd seen dandelions at a wedding. What was the point of dandelions at a wedding? This was the exact question Seb had been waiting for. A man's life revolved around the need to show off. And now, finally, someone was here to appreciate his master-level design. First, he began, I chose wild hyacinths. They signify rebirth, an escape from hardship. Paired with a rustic wrapping, they represent breaking free from the past to start a new journey. Second, I chose the broken cage iris bouquet. The iris petals resemble the wings of a bird, symbolizing breaking through confinement and flying to freedom. Third, the thorny escape rose bouquet. Roses with thorns already project a sense of self-protection, and the thorns heighten the feeling of difficulty, meaning a resolute escape from a tough situation. Fourth, I chose blue plumbago. Its cool color represents calmly leaving one's current environment for an unknown freedom. Fifth, lavender, which is often associated with dreams, symbolizing an escape from an exhausting or unrealistic fantasy. Sixth, dandelions. Their seeds scatter with the wind, symbolizing a departure without any attachments, chasing the wind of freedom. And seventh, cornflowers, which signify finding happiness, as in breaking free from current bonds to pursue it. Seb looked at the planner, utterly triumphant. The man stared back, astonished. Young Master Cole, your thinking is truly unconventional. But none of this symbolism sounds very auspicious. Breaking away, flying free, escaping the chains, that's exactly the point. But this is a wedding. So what? Seb suddenly felt a wave of ennui, the loneliness of being on a higher plane. How isolating it was when your ideas were misunderstood. Sigh. Only Leo is my soulmate. Only he can save me. Seb looked at the photo of Latifah on his phone, tears welling in his eyes. He had broken up with her. It was his decision. Because she'd said Leo and Isabella weren't a good match. That was something Seb absolutely could not tolerate. He didn't even think he was overreacting. Getting Leo and Isabella married had become his obsession. It was like vowing to get into Harvard and working your ass off for it, only to have your girlfriend mock you every day, telling you you're not smart enough. Wouldn't you be pissed? But honestly, he kind of missed her now. Still thinking about your black girlfriend? Mr. Cole sat down beside his son, speaking slowly as he watched a kite drift in the sky. You've had years to run wild. It's time to settle down. Dad, you know what Isabella's like. I won't have a single good day with her. Some sacrifices are unavoidable. This alliance is a binding tie, and our family and the Van Cess need that tie. Mr. Cole glanced at him, his handsome face stern. Sebastian, I treated the last wedding crashing as a joke. The ceremony hadn't started, so the humiliation wasn't total. But this time, I don't want to see any more mistakes. That's not something I can control. You know how willful Isabella can be. The back gate of the estate will be locked on the day of the wedding. All vehicles not part of the official wedding arrangements are forbidden from being moved. None of your people are allowed to drive, and the private jet is grounded for the day. Wait, what if one of my friends needs to leave early? If they're here for a wedding, why can't they wait until it's over? Mr. Cole gave Seb a meaningful look. If they absolutely must leave, they can walk back to the city. It's dozens of miles. Their legs would give out before they got halfway. Isn't this the location you chose, Seb? Mr. Cole left with a smile, leaving his son standing there in disarray. He knew his dad had seen through his plans and was taking preemptive measures. But for every move, there's a counter-move. No matter what, he had to get Leo here first. Seb gritted his teeth and turned to run out of the estate. Old man, he thought, you're about to witness the power of a true romantic. I swear on my life, I will spend forever with Latifah. And as soon as Leo and Isabella, those star-crossed lovers, are finally united. I will go and apologize to her. Never underestimate the power of a man in the throes of a romantic crusade. Fueled by a surge of hormones, Seb was practically flying. He sprinted, his feet barely touching the ground. The distance from the fountain to the gate was half a mile, but he only made it 10 feet. Young master, you can't leave. I don't have to leave, but I have a friend you need to go pick up. I apologize, young master, but if you're referring to Mr. Miller, then I must apologize again. Leo is a major figure in Riverbend, an important business partner. What right do you have to treat him like this? As the groom's family, we did not extend an invitation to the Millers. The Van Cess did. Therefore, his reception is the Van Cess responsibility. But I sent him an invitation. That was a personal invitation, young master. By rights, you should arrange for his transport yourself. Arrange my ass. I was going to pick him up myself. Seb hadn't arranged for anyone else because he had planned to go in person. Then I'm sorry, young master. You cannot leave. Seb smoothed out the wrinkled lapels of his suit, his eyes dark. This was bad. This was really bad. His old man was clearly determined not to let Leo anywhere near this wedding. He knew that if Leo showed up, something unexpected was bound to happen. If my man Leo can't even get on site, how the hell is he supposed to crash the wedding? His only hope now was Isabella. Isabella, how long are you going to keep this up? Mister. Vance stood with his hands on his hips, his face an icy mask. He reached for a cigarette, then slowly put it down. It was rare for him to lose his temper with his daughter. I said I'm not getting married. Do you think this is a game? That everyone is here to play along with you? You promised me before. You said the wedding was just a formality. You said that after it was over, I could go back to Riverbend and live however I wanted. And if I hadn't said that, would you have agreed to this? Isabella was shocked to hear him admit it, but a part of her had expected it. She said nothing, a cold smile spreading across her face. After all these years, her father hadn't changed at all. Seeing her smile, Mr. Vance's tone softened, becoming gentle as it always did. Bella, I'm always thinking of what's best for you. Don't you think it's time you thought about what's best for me for once? So that's what this has all been about. Getting to that one sentence. Isabella had never spoken to anyone about the conflict with her father. There's always a reason a person doesn't want to go home. Mr. Vance, has anyone ever told you that you love to act? Act. You're a natural-born actor, but no one can say I'm not a competent father. Isabella shook her head, staring at her father's face. He was an actor through and through, diligently playing the role of a father or a husband. It was a stark contrast to Leo's father. To any outsider, Mr. Vance was an incredibly responsible man who tolerated his daughter's arrogance and willfulness. Frank Miller, on the other hand, looked like a monster. But what you see depends on your perspective. An audience saw Mr. Vance's devotion, but as his daughter, who lived with him day in and day out, Isabella saw much more. Mr. Vance, have you ever genuinely, truly, thought about what's best for me? You said you wanted to leave the family, and I agreed. You asked me to help you sabotage the engagement party at the Millers, and I agreed. What more do you want from me? I'm asking you, have you ever really considered me? I don't know what you're talking about. In any case, you're not leaving this time. This is a fair exchange between us. Isabella hadn't said she was leaving. She knew that since her father had issued his ultimatum, there was no escape. Mr. Vance, doesn't it get tiring? Acting all the time. A father who is acting is more diligent than any real father. Mr. Vance didn't try to deny it. At his level, people had their own understanding of things. Or perhaps it was because of that unique understanding that he had reached this level. There is no image more perfect than that of a father. I must strive to meet all the requirements of being one. His face was blank, but his brow furrowed as if at some unpleasant thought. The fact that you can see through it proves I'm still not good enough. You're more than good enough. It's just that I've met another man who's also very good at acting. In truth, Isabella couldn't even pinpoint the root cause of the conflict with her father. She just knew they had always maintained this strange relationship. You could feel his support as a father in many things, financial help, backing her ideas, but you could also feel his indifference in so many others. For instance, he never actually cared if she was happy or sad. He supported her only because he needed to be perceived as a qualified father, and a qualified father had to support his daughter. Mr. Vance's world was vast, filled with business partners, extended family, clan elders. To become a qualified titan, he had to act. All those people were his audience, discussing his image over dinner. And in their traditional world, how a man managed his family was a critical measure of his character. So he had to act. Even as a child, Isabella would see her father and mother standing together, comforting her after a failed exam. But if it was just her father alone, that concern would vanish. As long as there was an audience, he was the perfect father, even if the audience was just her mother. So, more than a father, he was an actor, and without an audience, all you could feel was his indifference. What horrified Isabella even more was that her mother was exactly the same. When she had voiced this confusion as a child, her mother told her it was normal. But when her parents stood together, they would both stoop down, stroke her head, and ask in unison, "Did Mommy and Daddy do something wrong to make you unhappy? We'll change, okay?" But then they'd turn around, and nothing would change. Just like now, when her mother and a few relatives heard the argument and rushed into the room, everyone's face was wreathed in smiles. They all gathered around Isabella, comforting her. "Bella, darling, why so sad on your wedding day?" Her mother even pretended to swap Mr. Vance playfully. "On such a happy day, why must you upset her?" "Bella, Daddy's sorry. Please don't be angry, okay?" Isabella looked numbly at each face. Everyone here was a relative. Every face seemed to show emotion, but there was not a single drop of genuine feeling in the air. And so the most terrifying thing emerged. In front of an audience, Isabella was powerless to expose her father's performance, because the audience didn't care if he was a competent father or not. Who would? All they needed was a performance to uphold his image, to maintain his dignity. That's why someone once told her, the closer you get to dignity, the closer you get to decay. It's like how people cut down trees to make chopsticks so they don't have to eat with their hands. In a world already full of dust, all dignity is built on a foundation of filth. That man loved to act, too. You had to admit, what Mr. Vance said was true. A role that is acted is a perfect role. That man was the best actor of all. He could play the perfect boyfriend, so perfect you'd lose yourself in the performance completely. But Isabella had seen too many actors. Her starting point in life was just too high. Her material wealth was so great that everyone she met was an actor. The driver who smiled for a higher salary, the childhood friends whose parents had drilled into them to get on Isabella's good side. That man was the same. He'd even crash a wedding just to earn a bit of her money. But what Isabella could never forget was that moment after he'd crashed the wedding, when they were standing on the waterfront. She could close her eyes and picture it perfectly. Back in the hotel lobby, her father and mother were surely performing for each other, showing how much they loved their daughter. It disgusted her. She didn't want to hear it anymore. She wanted to hear something real just once. So she said, "Let's drop the boss and employee act and say something real." The most brilliant thing about an actor is that you never know if they're acting. Even the line, "I'm not acting anymore," could be part of the performance. So, at that moment, she wasn't really expecting him to say anything genuine. But he did, because what he said was, "Come over here and give me a back rub, little Izzy." In a way, acting is actually a good thing, because even the most loving parents can't be perfectly dutiful all the time. Can you say Frank Miller doesn't love Leo? But he was absent for his entire childhood. So if you look at their actions, Mr. Vance was a far better father than Frank Miller. The downside of acting, however, is that a person can't keep it up forever. I know you're waiting for Leo, but I already gave you two a chance. When everyone had left, Mr. Vance leaned against the window again, speaking quietly. Leo might not be the most suitable choice in terms of family background, but he meets the minimum standard. I wouldn't have completely opposed you two getting together. So I can marry Leo now. Too late. Mr. Vance spoke slowly. I know you don't want to marry Seb. I only care about the connection with the Cole family. I know I can't control you forever, so I'll make you a deal. As soon as you have a child to solidify this bond, you'll be free. Mr. Vance, I would rather die. Of course, a father wouldn't watch his daughter die. Time will make you accept everything. Mr. Vance examined his fingernails, murmuring, "But that's all for later. For now, Leo cannot come to this wedding. If he comes, things will get messy again. He will come, then I'll make sure he can't." Mr. Vance stared quietly at the overcast sky, muttering to himself, "If I let him show up here in front of everyone, I'd have to treat him with courtesy as long as he didn't do anything too outrageous. So the best solution is to prevent him from coming at all. Trying to stop Leo is a fantasy. Do you really think Frank Miller is a pushover?" Isabella mercilessly shot down his idea. "My reach certainly doesn't extend to Riverbend. Everyone's afraid of that lunatic Frank." Mr. Vance wasn't surprised by her response. He just gently shook his phone. "His flight is scheduled to land in half an hour. You think I can't handle him on my turf in Boston? What are you going to do to him? Just treat him to a few days of fine food and wine. Leo will definitely find a way to escape." Escape? A knowing smile played on Mr. Vance's lips. "Are you referring to the possibility that In the course of my enthusiastic hospitality, he might have a disagreement with my men, resulting in some non-fatal but debilitating accident. You're really not afraid of Frank Miller. Afraid and not afraid. If I'm afraid, I'll just push one of my men forward to take the blame. Frank can kill him or torture him, whatever he wants. He can even make me come to his door and apologize. But if he wants to escalate it further, then I'm not afraid. Is he going to declare war on me? At worst, we just cut ties. Isabella lay on the bed, taking a deep breath, her eyes never leaving her father by the window. She had always found him to be a terrifying person. The word terrifying is usually reserved for things that are hideous. But Mr. Vance wasn't hideous. In fact, excellent genes and a life of privilege had made him a handsome older man. He rarely got angry, never boasted, and didn't appear sinister or cunning. He just loved to act. But the way he looked at you, with that emotional indifference, things like love and family were probably relics of his past. He had reached a point in his life where there was very little left that could scare him. A titan of industry. Who was he afraid of? He was only afraid of his audience. All kinds of audiences. Perhaps everyone who reaches that level is afraid of their audience. Fortunately, such people are rare in everyday life. It's lonely at the top, and they don't come down from the mountain often. But the terrifying thing is when you look up at the clouds, they are everywhere. At that exact moment, a plane was gently touching down in Boston. A small group of men was quietly converging on the airport. No one knew what might happen next, including Leo, who, after the plane had taxied to a stop, was on his hands and knees under an economy class seat, trying to find his earbud. Damn it, he thought. If I ever buy a $10 pair of Bluetooth earbuds again, I'm an idiot. They don't even fit in my ear properly. This wedding was born from a deal between Isabella and her father. In exchange for helping get Leo away from the Millers, Isabella would agree to the wedding. Originally, it was a deal that satisfied both parties. Mr. Vance wanted his daughter to fulfill her value in a strategic alliance. Isabella would get to marry Leo. It was a good thing. Unfortunately, things rarely go according to plan. At least, that was how Leo understood the logic of the wedding. So he actually felt a little guilty. But since Isabella was willing to go through with it, there was nothing for him to say. His role was to be a guest and offer his blessings. He really wasn't here to cause trouble. He wasn't going to crash the wedding. Crashing a wedding only sounds cool. In reality, it changes nothing. If Isabella didn't want to get married, she would say so herself. Her father wouldn't force her. After all, Mr. Vance seemed to love his daughter very much. It just felt a little weird. With these thoughts in mind, Leo walked off the plane. He never did find his earbud. At the arrivals gate, he spotted the pickup party from a distance. It was hard to miss. Only Seb would think of something as embarrassing as holding up a giant banner. Leo covered his face as other passengers stared, walking toward the group. Where's Seb? Young Master Cole is busy. He asked me to pick you up. The bald man looked menacing, but his speech was surprisingly polite. Oh, what's he busy with? It's a wedding, you know. Greeting guests and all that. There's a lot to do. I'm sure you understand, Mr. Miller. Did he have a message for me or anything? No. He's probably saving it to tell you in person. Got it. I need to use the restroom first. Restroom's over there, Mr. Miller. The bald man pointed helpfully, watching as Leo walked into the men's room. Two of his subordinates came up behind him. Bull, one of them whispered, You think he suspects something? We haven't done anything suspicious. What's there to suspect? Despite his words, Bull's expression was grim. Their orders were clear. Under no circumstances was Leo Miller to appear at that wedding. Seb, if you don't answer your phone, I'm heading back to Riverbend. Leo was firing off texts to Seb, but they all vanished into a black hole. No reply. Bull was right. There was nothing overtly suspicious. From a normal perspective, it all made sense. The groom is busy, so he sent someone else to pick up a guest. But that only applied to a normal friendship. Seb had practically begged Leo to come, nearly calling him dad in his desperation. He was terrified Leo wouldn't show. He had been texting every 10 minutes to confirm, repeatedly saying he would be there to greet him personally. And now, Seb was a no-show, with no text, not even a message passed along. That was extremely out of character. It's just a wedding, Leo thought. There's no need to screw with me, right? Leo paced, trying to figure out what to do. The main problem was he only knew two people in Boston, Seb and Isabella. Right now, neither of them was responding. He couldn't just stay in the bathroom forever. He could see the restless shadows of Bull and his men pacing outside the stall. He knew they were getting impatient. Isabella watched Mr. Vance leave the room. She let out a breath. She didn't realize she'd been holding a beautiful curve forming on her ice-cold lips. If I've known you were an actor for this long, did you really think I wouldn't have my own script? In this house, so devoid of emotion, you couldn't approach your parents from an emotional angle. The only way to win was to act right back at them. Leo should be able to find a way to get here, right? Isabella sat on the edge of her bed, an unavoidable worry creeping in. She had guessed Mr. Vance would try to prevent any drama, but no one could have predicted he would be this ruthless, preventing Leo from even arriving. She wasn't hoping for Leo to actually sweep her away. What was the point of that? She just hoped this event would be enough to restore his memory. It was Evelyn Shaw's idea. Back in a coffee shop, she had proposed a plan to treat his amnesia. Her exact words were, "To treat amnesia, recreating scenes from deep-seated memories is an effective method." What kind of scenes? The scene of your first meeting, the scene of a profound conversation. Isabella thought it made sense, so she tried them all. She went back to the Cypress Lounge as a customer, got drunk, and cried on Leo's shoulder while reminiscing. But none of it worked. So she went back to Dr. Shaw. It's okay, Evelyn had told her. It's possible those events were too common for Leo. Many people have been his clients, and many have had deep talks with him. So, is there a scene that is unique to the two of you? Preferably something shocking and dramatic. A shocking scene would be the most memorable. There is. What could be more shocking than crashing a wedding? So shocking that if a video of it leaked, it would instantly go viral. So that was the plan. But this time, Isabella wouldn't leave with Leo. What would that change? Would it make him leave the other women in his life and be with her forever? Impossible. So why go with him? Leo didn't want to crash the wedding. She didn't want to run away. Isabella was going through all this trouble, recreating this scene, for one reason and one reason only. She just wanted an answer. Isabella, your past is a minefield of bad history. You, of all people, have no need to go digging for memories. Evelyn's warning echoed in her mind. It might be bad history to you, but I want to know what Leo really thinks of me. Men who are kept often develop psychological issues. I've treated many of them. It's very difficult for them to have a positive impression of the benefactor they live with day and night. I want to hear it from Leo himself. That was what Isabella had said in the coffee shop. She knew no one thought they were a good match. They were natural-born enemies, their stars misaligned, a fundamentally bad pairing. Their current entanglement was like trying to force a bitter melon to be sweet. Isabella wouldn't argue with any of that. She just wanted to hear what Leo had to say. Leo, do you really think that part of our past was a shameful history, something better left forgotten? Mr. Miller, upset stomach. Give me a minute. No rush. I was just worried about you. Bull walked over and knocked on the stall door. Hearing Leo's voice from inside, he relaxed and went back to wait by the sinks. His only job today was to keep an eye on Leo. Whether he was using the restroom or eating a meal, it didn't matter. As long as he didn't go to the wedding, Bull would happily accompany him on a safari to Africa. As he was thinking, Bull saw a black woman walk in. Seriously? I was just joking in my head, and now there's an actual African woman here. What shocked him wasn't her skin color. Boston was full of foreigners, especially at the airport. What shocked him was her presence here. Ma'am, this is the men's room. Huh? What did you just say? What language is that? I don't understand. Not wanting any trouble, Bull tried his broken English. This is the men's restroom. Anat mithlu himar and rabi. The dark-skinned woman was agitated, saying something he couldn't understand, her dreadlocks swinging behind her. The back of her dark hand contrasted with her pale palm. Her grip was like an iron clamp as she grabbed Bull's arm and started shaking it. It must have been a racial trait, because she was incredibly strong. Bull couldn't break free. Let go of me. I'll report you for harassment if you don't stop. Hearing the commotion, Leo stepped out of the stall, glanced at the scene from a distance, and then quickly walked toward the exit. Bull saw him try to leave and lunged for him. But to his surprise, Leo didn't leave his line of sight. He just ran to the entrance of the restroom and called Bull's two subordinates inside. Your boss is in trouble. Come help. Leo ran back in, looking extremely helpful, without the slightest intention of escaping. He even asked Bull, "Hey man, what's up with this woman?" "I have no idea. She's acting crazy. It sounds like she's speaking Arabic." "Whoa, you even know that. So what's she saying?" Seeing Leo's expression, Bull let his guard down. The kid didn't look like he was trying to run. He was just enjoying the gossip. "It sounds like she's saying something about her fiancé. I only know a little Arabic myself," Leo said, then looked at Bull with a puzzled expression. "Are you her fiancé?" "Hell no. I don't even know her. She says she's pregnant. With your child." As soon as those words were out, the other men in the restroom, who had been enjoying the show from their stalls, turned to Bull with looks of pure astonishment. One guy even gave him a thumbs up. "Damn, dude. Nice. You've got unique taste." Bull's face turned green. He wanted to use force, but with so many witnesses, he was trapped. The woman was crying and clinging to his leg. If this ended up online, his career was over. The noise naturally attracted airport staff. When a janitor poked her head in to see what was happening, Leo quickly walked over. "Ma'am, call the police, quickly. It's a sexual assault." "What? Who's being assaulted?" "I saw it with my own eyes." These three guys dragged that African woman into the men's room. Okay, I'll call them right now." Night fell. A dark-skinned woman walked out of a police station and was about to hail a cab when a white VW Jetta pulled up in front of her. The window rolled down, revealing Leo's face. "Latifah, right? Get in." "Okay." Latifah got into the passenger seat and sat in silence, her head bowed. What the hell was that all about? Pulling a stunt like that right off the plane? "Seb, they've locked him up." "How do you know?" "Because every day, at noon and at midnight, he posts a copied and pasted status to his social media." "What kind of status?" "At noon, it's something positive and motivational like, 'We all work hard on our own, and then we'll meet at the top.' At midnight, it's something sad like, 'A tsunami rose in my heart, but I stood there silently, and no one ever knew.'" "Does he ever miss a day?" "He's posted every day since we broke up." "And when you were dating?" "He never posted stuff like that when we were dating." "Whoa, then you guys must be the real deal. Anyone who can make you stop posting sad statuses has to be true love, right? You were waiting for me at the airport? How did you know my flight information?" "I've been to the Cypress Lounge before, so I took a chance and called Silas. He sold it to me." "That old bastard. He'd sell his own mother for $1. Leo, can you please help me?" "What do you want to do?" Leo turned to look at her, a very bold guess forming in his mind. "You're not going to crash the wedding, are you?" "No." Latifah shook her head. Her dark face seemed to blend into the night, making her white teeth seem unnervingly bright. "Your country is monogamous. In this culture, a wedding represents happiness and a final destination. I want to see Seb at his happiest moment." "Dude, don't say stuff like that in the middle of the night. You're making me depressed. Please, you have to take me." "Thank you. There's no need to torture yourself like this. That sounds like a scene from a sad movie." "The reason I came to you is because I thought you, of all people, would understand how I feel. After all, we're doing the same thing." "I'm nothing like you. Don't drag me into this. Aren't you also going to see Isabella at her happiest moment?" "Me? No. Then are you here to crash the wedding?" Latifah's eyes widened in confusion. "Of course not. Who would do something so stupid?" Leo snapped at the air, then turned to look at Latifah, who was staring at him with wide eyes. Finally, he lowered his head in silence. "Okay, fine. I'm that kind of stupid." At this point, a line from Dr. Shaw's psychological profile on Leo must be quoted for context. Leo possesses a flexible moral baseline. When he continuously labels something as immoral, stupid, or negative, it means he desperately wants to do it. His remaining rationality is trying to warn him that doing it will make him an idiot. He is constantly trying to restrain himself. Therefore, at this juncture, you must never allow Leo to find an excuse that lets him stand on the moral high ground. Otherwise, he will show you what a man with no morals is truly capable of. "Think about it," Leo said, his face glowing with a newfound righteousness. "If this wedding was on the level, would they need to restrict my movements and Seb's? Something is definitely wrong here." Mr. Vance had no idea that his actions had, by complete accident, flipped a switch in a certified madman. If he had just held a normal wedding and politely invited Leo, Leo would have done nothing but respectfully attend. But no, he had to stir the pot, handing Leo the perfect excuse on a silver platter. So, a word of advice: never let Leo Miller feel like he's in the right. An unjustified Leo is dangerous enough. A justified Leo is a force of nature. "So, can we form an alliance?" Latifah asked tentatively. "Stick with me, kid. I guarantee you'll be satisfied. Now, tell me your objective." "I want him to be happy. If he's happy, I'll be okay." Latifah's English was fluent, though accented. She'd clearly been practicing since the last time they met. Leo looked out the window at the scattered stars. He didn't know how to make Isabella happy, but he knew her happiness definitely wasn't marrying Seb Cole. The night passed peacefully. It was as if nothing had happened. Isabella was cooperative, just going through the motions. Mr. Vance was pleased to see it. To avoid any accidents, the wedding ceremony today was being kept simple. All that was needed was for Seb and Isabella to go up on stage and complete the formalities. The scene was grand. You had to admit, Seb had good taste in decor. The estate had a decommissioned locomotive on the grounds. The various bouquets symbolizing escape were tied with kites, and there were even hot air balloons in the sky. It was genuinely romantic. Mr. Vance listened to Bull's report, then waved him away. He did nothing, simply sitting quietly in his assigned seat, listening to the comments from the audience. Mr. Vance, now that Bella's getting married, a great weight has been lifted from our hearts. Bella has always been too willful. Only you would spoil her like this. Listening to the clan elders, Mr. Vance smiled and nodded, his gaze turning to his daughter. His expression was complicated, but only for a second before it returned to normal. He turned to see his future in-law approaching. Mr. Cole, I thought we agreed to keep it simple. Why isn't Seb here yet? The little brat is being difficult. He's making a scene. Mr. Cole looked around nervously, then leaned in to whisper in Mr. Vance's ear. That Leo kid. He's not coming, right? We didn't catch him. But so what if he comes? True. No matter what, we can't let him cause any trouble today. The embarrassment would be immense. Leo walked into the estate as if he owned the place, finding a seat in plain view of everyone. He was still wearing the same clothes from yesterday, a stark contrast to the other finely dressed guests. Mr. Cole, who had been watching him like a hawk, was the first to approach. My boy, do you remember me? No. To show he wasn't being provocative, Leo tapped his head. Sorry, I've got issues. I heard about that. Let me introduce myself. I'm Seb's father. Hello, Mr. Cole. Leo nodded, then got straight to the point. Are you worried I'm going to run off with Isabella again? Don't joke like that, my boy. Mr. Cole, I promise you, I will not take Isabella. Leo patted his chest, making a vow, then stood up. Seb even asked me to be his best man. I'm just going to go check on him now. Go ahead. Mr. Cole waved him on. As long as Leo wasn't alone with Isabella, he could do whatever he wanted. Give me my phone. I want my phone. Give me my damn phone. Seb was screaming in his room, pounding on the door like a caveman. The staff in the hallway exchanged nervous glances, unsure how to handle the situation. Let me talk to him. Leo squeezed through the crowd and leaned against the door. Seb, it's me. Leo. The door flew open, and Seb yanked Leo inside. Leo, they've got us on lockdown. All my preparations were for nothing. What do we do? Just get married. Marry my ass. I'd rather die than marry her. Seb sat on the bed, looking like death warmed over. After a moment, as if making the most important decision of his life, he looked up at Leo with grim determination. How about this? You take a knife and hold me hostage, Leo. Get up and listen to me first. Man, you have to crash my wedding. I am, Leo admitted calmly. Hearing this, Seb leaped off the bed, babbling incoherently. He looked like he was about to drop to his knees and worship Leo. Leo, I knew you had a plan. Just tell me, what do you need me to do? I do need your cooperation. Anything. Just say it. Do you agree to let me kidnap you? Of course. Wait, what? Seb pointed at himself, looking at Leo with utter confusion. You're kidnapping me? The goal is to not get married, right? Who I kidnap doesn't really matter. The words hung in the air. The room fell into a heavy silence. If Seb Cole dared to run, it would mean a complete break with his family. Leo didn't rush him. He stood quietly, waiting for Seb to think it over. Leo, this is a really tough decision. I know. Take your time. Leo took out his phone and played a recording. It was Latifah's voice with its distinct accent. Seb, you have to live a good life from now on. I'm going back to my country. There's a time difference between us, so when you post your sad statuses at midnight, I might not see them until I wake up in the morning. I know you post them for me, so I can comfort you when you're sad at night. From now on, when you're sad, remember to check the time difference. Otherwise, I won't be able to see it right away. I don't want you to be sad all alone in the middle of the night. Leo silently stopped the recording, patted Seb's shoulder, and turned to leave. A hand grabbed the corner of his jacket. Leo, kidnap me. It only took Seb 5 seconds to steal himself. He knew that with something like this, the more you thought about it, the more scared you got. You had to run on pure, raw emotion. Don't underestimate a true romantic. Seb stuffed everything he could possibly use from the room into his pockets. He armed himself with anything within sight. Disposable slippers, a toothbrush, soap, toothpaste. It didn't matter if it was useful or not. The atmosphere of a fully armed combatant was what counted. Leo, I've memorized the layout of this estate. Even though my preparations were wasted, this place is surrounded by woods and a lake. If things get hairy, we could just dive into the water and swim for it. Are you insane? If you don't like that idea, we can run into the woods. My watch has a compass. Don't worry, we won't get lost. How is that any different from running out the front gate? The gate is swarming with people. The security guards are built like gorillas. Seb, who was as skinny as beef jerky, tried to puff out his chest to describe the guard's massive size. If a gorilla can catch you at the gate, what makes you think it can't catch you in the woods? There's a difference in physical conditioning. On open ground, I'm obviously no match for them, but in tight terrain, it's a different story. Hearing this, Leo glanced at Seb's scrawny frame. Do you even weigh 100 pounds? Who are you looking down on? I'm 110 after a meal. On open ground, a gorilla needs one punch to take you down. In the jungle, it would have to take 2 steps before punching you. Then what do you suggest we do? Seb slumped to the floor, dejected. Is this the trial that all true romantics must endure? Do you trust me? Of course I trust you. When you get out, find a VW Jetta in the southwest corner of the parking lot. It'll be easy to spot. Nobody at a wedding this fancy drives a piece of junk like that. Latifah will be in the car. Driving back to the city is easy, but how do I get out of the estate? Just walk. The wedding ceremony was about to start, but the groom was nowhere to be seen. Some people were getting anxious. Mr. Cole, where's your son? I have no idea. Mr. Cole's face was dark as he walked toward the main building. He knew his son's personality. The kid had been wild for too long, always getting into some kind of mess. But when it came to the important stuff, he wouldn't dare disobey his father. Who else was going to give him money? Mr. Cole walked inside, hands clasped behind his back, and ran right into Leo. His gaze instantly sharpened. No, I have to keep an eye on this kid. This one is the real menace. It wasn't just Mr. Cole. Nearly everyone's attention was fixed on Leo. It was hard not to recognize him here. The last wedding had also been for Seb and Isabella, which meant the guest list was largely the same. The Vance family relatives, in particular, had the strongest reactions. Mr. Vance, why did you let this boy in? He came on his own. What could I do? In a city like Boston, you can't control him. Uncle Alistair, Boston is a very big city. Mr. Vance, I don't understand you. You've been brilliant your whole life. How could you let your children's affairs become such a stain on your reputation? Well, they're getting married now, aren't they? Uncle, at your age, you should focus on resting, not worrying about these things. I wouldn't worry if I didn't have to. But since you're the face of this family, you must set an example in all things. Your Bella has been so willful for so many years. What do you think others will say? If another strategic alliance is needed, won't the other girls in the family use Bella's behavior as an excuse to refuse? If the patriarch's own daughter acts this way, on what grounds can you ask others to marry for the family? A leader needs credibility. Every action must be a model for the rest of the family. Uncle Alistair, were you a teacher in your youth? I was back after the college entrance exams were reinstated. You haven't lost your touch after all these years. You've nearly put me to sleep. Mr. Vance glanced at his great-uncle, then turned and waved Leo over. Leo obediently walked up. Let's cut the crap. Are you crashing this wedding or not? Mr. Vance handed him a glass of water, asking casually. I am. You little punk. I had the whole airport locked down yesterday and still couldn't contain you. What were the names of the 2 guys following Bull? I don't know. Well, I'm guessing one was named Rock, and the other was Hardplace. Leo pulled up a deck chair and sat down next to Mr. Vance, grinning. Their conversation wasn't private. When the words crashing this wedding were overheard, the atmosphere on the lawn instantly shifted. A team of security guards quickly surrounded Leo's position, ready to restrain him at any moment. Mr. Cole walked over, his face ashen. My boy, if you behave like a guest, I will treat you as one. But if you have other intentions, I do have other intentions, then don't blame me for being impolite. Your impoliteness is a little late. My other intentions have already been carried out. Hearing this, Mr. Cole nervously grabbed his walkie-talkie to check on the situation. Only when he confirmed that Isabella was still in the bridal suite did he breathe a sigh of relief. You're bluffing me, kid? Mr. Cole, I never lie. Impossible. You couldn't have gotten out of the estate. Someone's been watching you since the moment you arrived. All the exits are monitored. Oh, then there must be a mole. Leo shook his head. How someone escaped isn't important. What's important is who escaped. Who escaped? Get the guy in charge of the big screen over here, and I'll tell you. Mr. Cole stood there, dumbfounded, looking at Mr. Vance. Mr. Vance, say something. Just do what he says. He's probably just bluffing. In front of the guests, Mr. Vance glared at Leo with righteous indignation, pointing a finger at him. You little brat, you better not be playing any tricks on me. When Seb's face suddenly appeared on the massive wedding screen, the entire crowd froze. Hello? Hello? Why is it so choppy? Seb's skinny face was so close to the camera, you could see the pores on his skin. When the camera pulled back, he was in a car, driving along a seaside cliff. Some birds aren't meant to be caged. Their feathers are just too bright, he screamed. The wind whipped his white shirt open as he poured a bottle of champagne he'd swiped from somewhere over his head. He cheered wildly. Driving the car was a black woman. Dad, I know you thought I'd never defy you. You thought that without money, I'd come crawling back home. But this time is different. I'm going to Latifah's home country, and I'm never coming back. I just found out today that Latifah was hiding her family background. No wonder she speaks Arabic. Her family is in the oil business in Arabia. Ha 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 ha. She's a rich kid, too. Your son, me, is set for life. Seb smiled and waved at the camera, the wide-angle shot capturing the waves crashing against the rocks below. Leo, I did it. Don't you let me down, man. Mister. Cole was stunned, a wave of dizziness washing over him. In all his calculations, he had never imagined it would be his own son who got kidnapped. Mr. Vance, I'm so sorry. That little bastard. Let's call a draw. My Bella was taken once too. Mr. Vance seemed to be comforting Mr. Cole, but he was actually twisting the knife. From now on, when we're negotiating business, you can't bring up Bella getting kidnapped anymore. How could I possibly have the face to mention it? Good, as long as we don't mention it. A fleeting smile crossed Mr. Vance's face before he quickly erased it. He turned to Leo. Was it your idea to have Seb run off? I won't deny it. Leo watched Mr. Vance with a playful smile, sitting back in his deck chair as a mob of people began to surround him. Barring special circumstances, the groom's family hosts the wedding. As the main culprit, everything Leo had done today was a direct slap in the face to the groom's family. A slap in Mr. Cole's face. My boy, you owe me an explanation for this, don't you think? Mr. Cole, supported by his relatives, walked over, his expression turning cold. I can give you one. Leo nodded, seemingly lost in thought. He then turned to Mr. Vance and whispered in his ear. He wants an explanation. What should I give him? Don't talk to me right now. Mr. Vance refused to whisper back. He stood up and shouted at Leo. The son messes up. The father takes the heat. Where's the head of the Miller family? Hearing this, a look of understanding dawned on Leo's face. He quietly sent a text message from his phone. The situation was spiraling out of control. The Cole family's anger was like a fire, ready to consume Leo. Dozens of them swarmed forward, denouncing him. It was as if failing to curse him out at this moment would be a betrayal of their family name. The Vance family was also furious, especially the highly respected Uncle Alistair. Leo, you have repeatedly sabotaged this alliance. What is your goal? Just having some fun. You think this is a child's game? If you're really that angry, sue me. You. Uncle Alistair, leaning on his cane, stomped it on the ground. He was the oldest person here. Even the late Miller patriarch would have had to address him with respect. When he spoke, everyone else fell silent. Leo, do you not know the saying, better to tear down 10 temples than to ruin one marriage? Duly noted. I won't ruin any more next time. Do you have any idea what the destruction of a strategic alliance means for a family? I'm not part of your family. How would I know? A man must marry, a woman must wed. This marriage must happen. Uncle Alistair hammered his cane on the ground. Don't think I don't know what you're all up to. What is this nonsense about wanting to or not wanting to? You must. Mr. Cole, give me that boy back here within the hour. I must see this marriage completed today. I don't care if your Isabella is being willful or not. She can throw her tantrums elsewhere. The family is not a place for willfulness. The family raised you, and you refuse to provide any value in return. Spittle flew from his mouth, and Leo had to cover his face. He secretly glanced at Mr. Vance and made a fist. Mr. Vance shot him a look, signaling him to pay attention to the old man. At that moment, Uncle Alistair started coughing and yelling, If this ceremony is not completed today, I will die right here on these old bones. Uncle, you mustn't. A group of younger relatives rushed to his side. Faced with this scene, Mr. Vance secretly threw his hands up in a gesture of helplessness. What can you do? The respected elder had spoken. Mr. Cole waved his hand, and the estate security force surged toward the exit. Seb had only been gone for about 20 minutes. If they really wanted to catch him, he couldn't have gotten out of Boston. Don't worry, Uncle. Even if the heavens themselves came down today, that little monster isn't getting away. Mr. Cole pounded his chest, making a promise. Mr. Cole, someone's here. Who's here? Mr. Cole turned around, confused. Well, if you're willing to call me a god, then he might just be God himself, Leo said with a slight bow. Mr. Cole looked toward the estate entrance. Wait, where was the gate? Where's the estate's iron gate? Mr. Cole, it was dismantled during the argument just now. Who would dismantle the gate? He'd barely finished the question when he realized why. If you don't dismantle the gate, a semi-truck can't drive onto the lawn. A figure in a suit jacket with no shirt underneath, a red tie, fluttering freely, leaped from the cab. His first move was to roll his shoulders. His second was to wave his hand. In an instant, men started jumping out of the truck's trailer like fish from a pond. His third move was to open his mouth. Son of a bitch. I'm his damn father, and I've never laid a hand on him. And you people think you can? Frank Miller swaggered over, hands in his pockets. He glanced at Uncle Alistair's face and spat on the ground. You old fossil. You're the one who said I wasn't cut out for school. If it weren't for you, I would have gone to college. Frank Miller, what do you think you're doing? Uncle Alistair raised his cane as if to strike, but Frank snatched it and tossed it aside. Don't play games with me. You're the bastard who screwed me on that shipping route back in the day. If you hadn't retired early and hidden in your turtle shell, I would have broken your old bones years ago. Frank Miller was so crude that even Leo couldn't stand it. He kept signaling for his father to tone it down. Dad, we're not in the right here. Tone it down. In the right. Frank looked at his son, a playful, mocking smile on his face. Son, I know you understand the downside of being a Miller. You're not wrong about that. But I came here today to show you the perks of being a Miller. He picked up a deck chair, walked a short distance away, and sat down, crossing his legs. Son, your old man has never fought a fair fight in his life. No one knew how the wedding turned into a massive brawl. Under normal circumstances, it wouldn't have, which meant someone must have wanted it to. Mr. Vance, give me back my damn earbud. Amidst the chaotic noise of the fight, Leo and Mr. Vance were both hiding under a table, whispering, You still want that piece of junk? It cost $10. The earbud that had fallen under the seat in economy class was indeed lost. But last night, after picking up Latifah, Leo had returned to his hotel and found a new one in his pocket. At first, he thought it was his, and he was happy to have his $10 back. But when he opened the case, he realized something was wrong. There was a voice memo on it. It was Mr. Vance's voice. So the mole who had helped Seb escape had been Mr. Vance's man all along. What the hell are you trying to accomplish with all this? As you can see, I'm cleaning up the historical baggage left over from the last time you crashed a wedding, and I'm finding a reasonable excuse to disown Isabella from the family records. Wait, why are you disowning her? It was going to happen sooner or later. Bella doesn't like being at home anyway. Then why not just do it directly? As a child of a major family, you really haven't learned a single proper thing, Mr. Vance said through gritted teeth. Even a school needs a reason to expel a student. Otherwise, the gossip will crush you. A negative reason minimizes the fallout. Don't you understand? I get it now. This is all for Uncle Alistair's benefit, right? It's for the benefit of the entire audience. You actually do love Isabella, don't you? Perhaps. But once I crawl out from under this table, I have to be absolutely furious. Otherwise, I'll have a hard time explaining this to the family. Mr. Vance poked his head out to survey the battlefield outside. A few bodyguards were searching for him. His expression instantly changed, his face so dark it looked like it was about to drip water. But just before crawling out, he turned and kicked Leo. You better treat Bella well, you bastard. Mr. Vance, what's the point of all this acting? If you could build an empire this massive just by acting, you'd find it interesting too. All the world is stage, huh? Keep learning, Leo. There's no end to it. Through the hail of, well, not bullets but fists, through the battlefield, Leo finally reached the bridal suite in the back. It was quiet here. Most of the staff were either out front fighting or watching the spectacle. Only Isabella was there, barefoot, sitting alone in the middle of a sea of dandelions. Her blue eyes lifted to look at him. When she saw who it was, her gaze dropped again. What's all the noise about outside? They're fighting. Who? Leo peeked through a gap in the crowd. Frank Miller had Mr. Cole by the collar and was trying to pull out his dentures. The groom's father and the wedding crasher's father. A father-son team crashing a wedding. That's a first. Who's the wedding crasher? Take a guess. In such a Western-style estate, Isabella was naturally wearing a white wedding dress. The pure white gown trailed on the floor, perfectly complementing the dandelions behind her. She said, I'm not leaving. Okay, then I guess I won't crash it. Leo, do you remember me? I knew you before, didn't I? I mean our past. No, I don't remember that. Hearing this, a look of disappointment flashed across Isabella's face, but it was quickly replaced by a sense of resignation, as if she had expected it. Right? Maybe in your mind, there's no need to remember. Why would you say that? Because in the past, I was just your benefactor, someone who controlled you, tried to change you, made demands of you, ordered you around. Who told you that? Everyone says so. Leo sat down, not answering. Honestly, he couldn't define his image of Isabella in his mind. In the last year, she was the person he'd spent the most time with, more than Summer Lynn, Skylar Reed, or Evelyn Shaw. They had even lived together. If his missing memories of summer were linear, he could piece things together from the recollections of other classmates, childhood friends, and family. But his memory of Isabella was a huge, concentrated blank space. He had no way of inferring how he had felt back then. Leo, if you really can't remember, then don't force it. Isabella tilted her head and leaned closer, the sapphire earrings she wore tinkling softly. She said, Leo, I just want to ask. Everyone says we're a terrible match. Do you think so too?